Yeah. And good morning. Hope everybody's doing all right. On this Monday, it is December 5th. We are rocking and rolling, ready to get things going. Welcome to Cancel This. I'm Vic Faust alongside Eric Johnson and Tabitha Hassel. We are getting things moving, ready to go. Mike's walking around the room. We got it. You may see him on our shot. Okay. You know what we do here? We're live.
Want to make sure your mic is muted?
Yeah, let's see. My mic is muted.
Great.
Yes, we were
Keep
right.
going, Vic. We're good.
But it's really cool in our headphones today because we are a live show, so we kind of do things very organically. And I love it. So we are ready to go this morning.
We're the whole
Hey guys, I'm Vic
radio.
Faust with Tabitha Hassel, Eric Johnson, producer, Mike Wilkerson. Hope everybody had a terrific weekend. We are Cancel This. We're live Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 a.m. Central. Of course, we save our content because we are a podcast. You can go to canceltheshow.com where we have already put those episodes up, and we'll be putting all the interviews we have, your daily news, commentary, headlines, cancel culture interviews, and interviews of politics, you name it. We already are starting our first week. This is week number 2. Had some terrific interviews last week to show the week, and then this week, starting off today, Monday, friend of our show. We used to do a radio show in the St. Louis area. We're a nationally geared show. We're going to talk with Ty Dennis. He used to be director of a gang unit in Atlanta. He was a St. Louisan. He was in Atlanta for a long time, retired. Came up with a really cool program called Cops and Clippers, bringing people of the streets, the inner city, who may have had some issues with trust issues with police, and police likewise, together in situations. He started to blow up. He's been with us from the beginning of this program. He now travels the country. He talks to college football, college basketball programs, trying to teach young athletes, teach young men and women, for that matter, how to deal with police. And likewise, just a very interesting guy. You know, he grew up, he had a tough life. He was a DSEG kid, meaning he lived in the city. He was bussed out to the county in St. Louis, had a chance to go to a very nice public school, and of course got a great perspective of what life is all about. So he's going to join us at our 9:00 hour.
Okay, I don't know if you've been watching local news here in St. Louis. We're in St. Louis, Missouri.
Why would you do that?
I know, but it's so funny.
They don't tell you the full story.
It's so funny to me now. The stories are starting to become here in St. Louis, Missouri. I think the media is starting to pounce back on our leaders here in St. Louis, how crime-ridden this place is. I saw last night a 5-minute piece, I guess, about how St. Louis, the owners of businesses, the people who live down there, they're fed up. And they are talking to the leadership here in St. Louis, the mayor, the prosecutor, whoever they can. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, we're working on it. And they shrug their shoulders at the people who actually are paying the bills for those people.
No one's working on it. Well, we're over the weekend in the city of St. Louis, I believe there were 5 shootings and 3 homicides, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, there was at least 5
insane.
shot, 3 killed in weekend shootings. Believe it or not, it's been worse in other weekends. And it was a
yes.
You know, hey, we don't want to talk bad news, but we talk what's a reality, and it is happening. And, you know, in our 9:00 hour, we'll talk about it, but we're also talking about it now because it is happening. A teen shot. He was killed in North St. Louis as well. I mean, and St. Louis is just one area. You know where you are, whether you're in Chicago, Dallas, Phoenix, Los Angeles, you know what's happening. It's that crime situation. And why else would crime be happening unless the deterrents were not strong enough?
And I think it's cool. I saw a story about cops. You know, communities have great examples. There's a community here in the Midwest, O'Fallon, Illinois, and the cops will pay for certain kids to go Christmas shopping with them. And it's this outreach of the police officers getting to be part of the community. And the crime-ridden parts of this country just don't seem to do that. And I think that you're starting to see this. I don't know I guess I used to use the word this retribution against the leadership of these cities that just do not want to take accountability for any of this crime. And this might be the turning point to where we do start to see Vic actually put it was a fake post, but they said George Soros was dead.
That was
It was
actually
a fake post.
me. I put that on the comment line because it's one of those rumors that's been circulating. I don't believe it to be true. This weekend there was a big hoax that Bruce Willis was dead.
Right.
Definitely not true.
But
and then George Soros, someone sent that to me and they said they saw it in the mainstream media in Hungary, which is where Soros lives. But I looked everywhere I could, and I couldn't find anything. I don't believe it's true.
But I just got this visceral reaction.
It will be true one day, but it's
I
don't
know
believe
he's
it's
an
true
old
today.
dude. But I got this visceral reaction.
So the crime stories made you think of
him,
George Soros.
It really
Yeah,
did. It really did.
And I know where you're going with this.
It needs to make you think of that because he's funded prosecutors across this country to not prosecute crime. So why in Russia he's a criminal? There's actually a tag on his head, dead or alive. Here in the United States, we martyr him.
Yeah, Kim Gardner here in St. Louis. Just give me the cash. And I always wonder, does a George Soros have a conversation with said prosecutor in said city of who he's funding and say, look, I'm going to give you $2 million.
Kim Gardner admitted that. So yes.
Yes, but is the conversation, and we talk about this because of our guest today, does Kim Gardner have a conversation about, yes, if you give me the money, I will not prosecute criminals?
Yes. And as Vic pointed out the last time we talked about this, all sides do it. But in this particular case, not prosecuting crime hurts us. It's different than when Republicans are paid. We might get frustrated and say, oh, they're the establishment candidates are keeping Nancy Pelosi in office. They're keeping Chuck Schumer in office. But that's different than saying don't prosecute violent crimes.
Yeah.
They're destroying our country with intent.
Yes. So damn you for sending that little fake message out. Because
when I first saw it, I'm like, I'm going to send it and then I'm going to go back and backtrack because, it's 5:30 in the morning and I'm looking things up. But no, I couldn't confirm it. I don't believe it to be true. It will be. He's 92 years old. It will be true someday.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what?
I don't think today is that day.
It won't matter.
It won't matter because his son is rising in the ranks right behind him.
If you are a person that is against George Soros or we're scared to death of this guy and his operation, don't worry. He has his
deep
son.
pockets as he's vested. So the Soros Foundation isn't going anywhere.
It is not.
He is with the one world leaders and blah, blah, blah.
And even if it weren't for his son, there would be someone to step up and take his place. There always is, because there are always people out there who want to propagate socialism.
Right. True story.
Which we're going to talk about on Friday, by the way, because Kasia Stocky is coming in to talk to us on Friday morning.
Nice.
I want to throw that out there.
I may have a special guest for the Paranormal Friday show as well.
Exciting.
No, I'll keep you guys posted. I'll keep you posted, but I think
because we have to do it.
I think you'll enjoy this man.
You're bringing Art Bell back from the dead.
No, it's not George.
I know who it is. Oh, I was going to say that.
I haven't run into George yet, but when I do, trust me, we will be talking with Mr. George Norrie. What really can be done? How much will people take when it comes to the crime? Guess who stops this? You do. You who live in these places. You who live in the cities, you who vote for, quote, mayors of cities, you who want more policing, you, the citizens do. But we're a St. Louis show, but we see all around the country, it's who's ever living in those cities who do the voting. And when only 28% of the population of, quote, say, St. Louis goes to vote, then those 28% get what they want for everybody.
28% of registered voters.
That's
a very minimal number of people.
Eric likes to think, and don't let me speak for you, Eric, but if it's a situation when we've started out crime today and, the murders, the shootings, is it safe to say the guns aren't killing people, but it's the people doing it? Because that's the argument. If we take the guns away, the crime goes away. No, it doesn't.
It's a false argument because crime is like the good people of St. Louis City. The businesses down there. I use St. Louis City because it's the one that I can actually see and touch. Is baseball bats take out more windows than anything else. It screws with people's lives that way. Muggings, getting their asses kicked on a metro or a subway, do more damage than a lot of other crimes. It's a violent crime. Guns come out of the back of thugs' pockets, and they use them as a weapon, obviously, to commit crimes. It is a tool, but that is not you. Every time you hear anybody say that the guns are the problem here in the United States is absolutely out of their mind. It's so stupid. You can use anything as a weapon. I can throw a barbell at you. I can do serious damage to you. I can use a car to just go and decimate a group of people.
Well, drugs are the number one killer.
Drugs are,
and then we
stay
have
away from
guns,
the fentanyl.
but it is guns. But the problem is it's not legal guns. It's illegal guns. It's criminals using guns.
Unfortunately, the problem is a quagmire because people who are good people live in the suburbs that they go and register their weapons and they put them in a nice, and we know people like this, they put them in a nice gun case. It's a safe. You need your bio thumbprint to get into thing. Those are not the people going down to St. Louis and wreaking havoc on the crowds coming out of Busch Stadium. You see what I mean? So you really have to couch these conversations properly before you're going to fix any of these problems.
But sometimes those are the people taking guns to Busch Stadium and leaving them in their vehicles where the criminals steal them and then use them to commit crime across the city.
All right, here's the problem that you have though. And being in local news for as long as I was and seeing the stories and reading the data, number one, people are tired of hearing about shootings and crime. If I'm wrong, tell us. You can give us a call, 636 636-515-4892. You can jump in, canceltheshow.com, join us via video link so you can get in the show. Or you can go to our comment line of any of the platforms that you may be listening on. We have several platforms coming. You can definitely go to Facebook, Twitter. We're on the LinkedIn, I believe Cloud Hub as well right now. You can jump in, Twitch. Let us know. Am I wrong? Do you want to hear about crime? I don't know if people do. I mean,
I think people want to hear about
and when I say people,
where crime comes from and why we're not solving it.
I mean, the larger percentage of people. Do people really care? Because we were told through all of our research studies, people are tired of hearing about shootings.
Yeah, but what are you going to do?
Shootings, that's different.
I was tired of hearing
and killings.
I was tired of hearing about COVID, but every single morning I would wake up for my Chris Renier COVID story, and it's like, oh boy, we got 4 checking into area emergency rooms.
What? Yeah. No, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? It was every day until the problem was over.
But that was a whole different story. I mean, crime is going to continue forever. I think crime is an important part of the discussion. I don't need to know how many people were shot over the weekend.
What I think it is? I do think this is a culturally almost racist thing. I'm not going to lie to you. If you live in St. Charles, if you live in Chesterfield, you look at those stories and you go, in Chesterfield and St. Charles here in St. Louis are the suburbs.
Well, it's the same way for any city across the country.
Exactly. If you look at those stories that come on at 9 and 11 and you go, oh, those poor people down there in St. Louis City, another shooting. You don't look at it. You look at it as you're desensitized. If you live in those communities, you're desensitized.
Well, people look away from black on black crime is what it is.
If this was going on.
They really do.
I know.
But when you say people, what do you mean people?
I mean that the majority of people, whether you're black or white, look away from black on black crime.
You mean it's accepted?
Yes.
I'm not going to say accepted. I think it's easier to chalk it up as gang crime, drug activity. It doesn't affect us.
Well, most
so we
of it
don't
is.
care.
It's culturally
it
accepted.
It absolutely
there is no such thing as racism anymore. Please get that in your mind. Racism is culturalism. If you live in certain cultures, in certain communities, you accept certain things. If you live in a affluent white neighborhood in Ladue, Missouri, you do not accept crime, period. You go after your police, you go after your mayors and say, I pay a lot of money to live in this.
You just said the key, that's money.
Okay, fine. But if that's it, then I have built a life for myself to live in certain areas. Black, white, green,
think the people
purple,
in the inner city
yellow,
like
it doesn't.
I don't think they like it. I don't think they want it to happen.
Why are they voting? No. You have quantified.
They're not voting.
Quantifiably, you're wrong. Mayors of St. Louis are voted on by people that live in St. Louis.
Very few people.
Prosecutors in St. Louis are voted on by the good people of St. Louis. Cori Bush was elected by the good people of St. Louis, Missouri. So you're wrong. It's a cultural thing. This has nothing to.
Well, in the city, they're always going to vote Democrats.
And it's not just St. Louis. I always say we're pumping out across the country. The same thing's happening in Chicago, Eric. The same thing's
It's a
happening
cultural
in
thing.
DC.
It's a cultural
The same
thing.
thing's happening in Baltimore.
Cultural.
The same thing is happening in Dallas and Phoenix, and you go down the list.
Yeah.
And it's happening in Atlanta. And we'll talk with Ty Dennis, who was a director of the gang unit. And he'll tell you as he comes in the 9 o'clock hour today, live in studio for the Cancel This studio. But
I can't wait to hear his thought.
But
And Eric,
people-
we'll bring that up again
but
with
the problem,
Ty.
but Eric's onto something. Why do you accept it? Why is it
I don't-
happening in the city? You talk about black on black crime.
Yes.
The media won't talk about black on black crime.
Oh, they won't even say the
And
word.
They won't say the word.
In 24 years in local media,
Yeah.
we produce and want to do stories on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, and people
we
in the
can't talk about that.
I know.
Oh my God, that's going to sound racist. Well, you need to be true. You're never going to solve any problem. Trust me, I dealt with it until you actually are willing to talk about every single side of the story. Everybody needs to be heard. All opinions are welcome here and Cancel This. It really is astonishing how people just like, yeah, we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to, yeah, it'll get better. Oh, it's because of, we don't have enough money. We don't have this. Well, the county has all the money. If we have money, then there's not going to be the gun problem. And then there's so many other issues.
It's so complex.
If you don't talk about it,
so complex.
and if local news has been the only quote, I guess, tower that's going to talk, no, it's the local communities. But guess what? It doesn't matter where it is in this country, what city it is. When I worked in the city of St. Louis, and why you guys got angry at me, not angry, but thought that I was this huge Kim Gardner supporter. I was just trying to promote the facts.
Yes.
And the facts are this. I was in the city of St. Louis on
Mhm.
most days
Yeah.
for 7 years, not most days, but many days. And I saw an overwhelming support for not only Kim Gardner in 2 different elections, and she blew out anybody that was showing up to try to take her on, but also for Tashara Jones. And people want that. And Cori Bush, you brought up Cori Bush.
Yeah.
In their second elections, or in their second, people more so vote.
but we
for
have
them.
to think about, and we have to add this into
I'm just
the
giving
equation.
you the numbers.
And you're right,
So
but we have
people
to.
don't care about what anybody else thinks in the county or any else. And there is an element of, quote, racism
No.
against us for telling us
Mhm.
who we should vote for in the city.
Well,
Every community. I'm telling you, Kim Gardner held a press conference, and every member community had somebody from their community in attendance when she was catching some heat, when the Greitens situation was going down, when she was being brought up, quote, on charges or to the Missouri Ethics Committee, the
Yeah.
board. Guess what? People were there to support her.
Yeah.
but
And-
how are they getting there? There's so much more to the story.
Yeah.
Is because you know what the Democrats are doing that we don't do as conservatives? They are paying people to vote. They'll give them $20 to vote.
Who does this?
The Democrats do. The
You can't
Democrats.
just say the
Well,
Democrats.
I'm not gonna. I don't have a specific name. Aldermen in the city of St. Louis, mayors in the city of St. Louis. What they will do is they will pick up homeless people. They will charter buses and they will go and pick people up and take these people to the polls. And they've done that for years. And that is how they get people.
Where does this happen?
And it happens in all big cities.
Is that
all
why
of this
Warnock
voted-
won his first election in Georgia?
What's up?
Was that why Warnock won his first election
Oh,
in Georgia?
Georgia.
Is that why he's going to
Don't even get me started on Georgia.
What? We're national. This is all about crime
Yeah.
in the
We
city.
know-
Get started on Georgia.
We
Go.
know what happened in Georgia. I mean, look at Stacey Abrams and the ballot harvesting that took place. And that's what Democrats do. It's the ballot harvesting. They will go to any lengths to get people to the polls. And we as conservatives, we don't do that.
Do we? Okay.
We
where's-
don't charter buses and take people
So
to the
are
polls.
you saying that that's bad
Good
to
point.
do?
I am
No,
saying
they're
I am
winning the
saying
game.
that they're winning the game
Yeah.
because they go to further lengths than we do.
Yes. So
Think if
then you're
we
not
chartered
ripping. So you're
buses.
not ripping them.
Well, I definitely am ripping them. Yes.
No, you're not.
I'm saying that we need to start fighting fire with fire, but I don't think all the means they use are legal means.
No, you're talking.
By
You
any-
live in an era now
Yes.
where you look at early voting in cities and states, and when you see multi-million people early voting, that's the Dems. I'm sorry, those guys are coming out. They're organized. They're a bunch of army ants.
And we have people like Soros funding it.
Well, that's fine. You know what? Remember the days when the Democrats were bitching about the Koch brothers and they were bitching about, all the money that was thrown into government? Guess what? They just got their entire cash infusion. They did. They are kicking butt in cash.
But you brought
They
up
are.
these
And they're
cities
winning the game. Here's
that are
the
these-
game. Here's the rules. Go at it. And boom, they're winning the game. The only thing that I think that Republicans have a fair argument on
And losing?
is ballot boxes and ballot harvesting. And I just think that here's the deal. I think that we're in a situation right now, and I don't know that we'll ever get changed. You want to vote. You will go to a polling station. You will pull out your ID, your state ID. I don't care what it is. You have to do it to get on an airplane. Voting is way more important than flying on an airplane. I'll tell you that right now. You pull out your ID, you put your vote in, you have now done your duty. If you can't get out of your house, we will get you a certified letter with your documents. You will have to prove who you are. That has got to get tightened up in this country. Period.
Yeah, well, I'm just pulling us back into the whole subject of where we've been.
Yeah.
Crime in cities, it's getting worse.
Yes.
Why is it getting worse? Leaders continue to say the same. Then Tabitha says, well, it's your Democratic-led cities.
Yes.
That's been thrown out. People are afraid to say it. Why is the crime so bad in Democratic cities? Are we wrong? No, we're not wrong. It's the Democratic cities. So then you break it down. Now, what you can make excuses or you can give legitimate reasons
Yes.
as to why. But why is it? And I'm curious too. Why is it that the Democratic-led cities or the cities where the crime is the worst? Why is it the cities that are the most lenient on those who commit crimes? These are facts. And then why doesn't anything change? Well, who is in charge? The community's in charge. Does this mean the community accepts it? Does the community feel as if they voted for a quote Republican over a Democrat?
Yeah.
That, oh, well, we're going to the other side. Oh my God, Republicans are racist. Who makes up the majority of the Democratic-led cities?
True
Who is it?
story.
It's the whole situation is so
you gotta
complex.
have real conversations to get to real results, which is
Yeah.
what we try to do on Cancel Day.
And
Money-
you know what?
money
As white
basic-
people, what, Eric?
No, I'm just going to say money is what has driven this insanity of good people in good cities that have driven. I mean, when you're outfunded 10-1 and you have a prosecutor who basically wants to take away jail time for violent criminals, and they say it on air that, I mean, the flavor of the month with voting for prosecutors is defund the police. There has to be social justice involved with this new justice system. That's what this is all about. Not to mention, the money thing is really where it's at. I'm sorry, but the Republicans are not driving big dollars as far as advertising goes anymore.
Well,
This is
they are, but they're using it for different things.
when you have these Bitcoin kids coming out and throwing $30 million at races, and that's the culture that is voting right now. I'm telling you, the Republicans might not win elections for some time.
Well, race is being brought into politics. Race has been brought into politics for some time. It's been brought into the elections. Melinda says, we were down in St. Louis for a scavenger hunt event, and we were greeted by the homeless telling us, quote, all you white people need to take your racist, prejudiced asses home.
Yeah.
It's hard to do a generalization for an entire group of
Can you
people.
imagine Mitch McConnell saying something like that, but flipping it around? I mean, it would be.
Well, no, these were homeless. They weren't Democratic politicians.
It would be It doesn't matter. It would be outrageous to hear those words coming out of anybody. We're at a point right now where racism is on one side. I think white people are just exceptionally afraid to say anything. Am I correct in saying that? I mean, white people.
Well, it's a cancel.
We
It's
can't be
a
afraid to talk
cancel.
about
Yes.
it.
It's a cancel culture
Yes.
situation.
right.
You're afraid to offend somebody. If you speak something that is truth, and all of a sudden, oh my God, I may suffer the consequences. I may lose my job. I may be termed a racist.
Yeah.
And guess what? That has been weaponized by certain people
Yeah.
and by certain groups.
Absolutely.
But that's why I tell you, but Eric, at the same point in time, there are racist people, and racism is
Who?
all around. Eric,
Name 'em.
They're individuals.
Fine, but they're not.
I hear
but they're
people
not.
talk out
Okay, that's fine.
in
But
communities. I'm not saying quote leaders.
I hate the word racist. It's just we're not living in 1954
Well, it's
anymore.
the whole thing
you know?
again. It's like, what power do you have to control somebody, and what are you actually saying about somebody as well.
Correct. But at the same point,
and then it all gets back into the crime in these communities.
But the thing is,
and things not getting any better.
You can use you use it as a weapon. You know what? You don't know anybody's heart. I'm sorry, you just don't. But I can call Tabitha Hassel. You are racist, man. You are racist, and then I have now knocked down your ability to have a conversation anymore. So you're racist, Tabitha. So anything that's said past this is coming through the lens of you being a racist person. So, and that is unfair. I think that is slanderous, as a matter of fact. It's not racism. If we want to fix the problems in this country or in this world, we have got to be able to have legitimate conversations that have nothing to do with name calling or canceling people or any of that stuff. I do think that this is a cultural problem. It's not a racist problem.
Well, we'll have to talk to Ty Dennis about that. But here's the thing: we're 4 white people sitting in a studio. Our opinion doesn't matter to the Black community. And when I have on my old show back in the day called Tabs on Tap, way back in the day, I talked to several different people back then would come onto my show. They would call into the show, people from the Black community, and they would tell me, we don't care what you think because you don't live our lives.
Okay, so
you haven't experienced.
How do you
does that mean the inner city likes all the crime that's going on?
I know they didn't like the crime at all. As a matter of fact,
so then what are they doing about it?
Yeah,
what they tell me is they tell me that it is their problem.
Okay,
they don't want to discuss it publicly. That it's up to their own community to solve. And they don't want to talk about it.
So going into a decade of this, I mean, multiple decades, I'm sorry. So they don't have any plan of attack to fix this problem. Tell you what,
no, they don't, because
St. Charles did.
Yeah, they did. And here's why. But the issue is this: it starts with leadership. Yeah. If you elect mayors who are not going to, quote, be tough on crime, and I'm not saying that Tashara Jones is right or she's wrong.
No, you can say she's wrong. Go ahead.
The problem is that she said, well, we had hundreds more police officers before and we still had the high crime. We still had all the shootings. Well, nothing changes.
Right. They have their own solutions. What their solutions are a lot what Ty Dennis is doing. They try to create programs that bring police and youth together. They try to create mentorship programs at churches to mentor these kids. They try to bring people into the schools to talk to these kids. But they have to start younger because a lot of these kids get that gang criminal mentality almost from birth in some instances. And they have to start younger, especially here in the city of St. Louis. I'm sure this happens in every major urban city. We have 10-year-olds going to school with weapons. We have 10-year-olds selling drugs. We have 10-year-olds stealing vehicles. We have to start younger. And that's something that we just aren't doing.
I agree with you, but I think that also it has nothing to do with that. If I was the mayor, have you ever played that game, Vic?
Well,
no, come on.
I only listened to you play the game.
No.
When you were going to run for mayor of St. Louis,
only to help
in the last election, but you were going to have to live in St. Louis before you could run, and you never moved to St. Louis.
He's never even been to the city.
Have you ever just played the game in your head? If I was mayor,
no.
Why?
But no, I'm not getting into that critical thinking. That's your job on this show.
Tabitha, have you ever played the game in your head?
Yes, all the time.
If I was mayor.
All the time.
And what would you do? Let me just ask you that. And everybody that's listening, chime in. What would you do? If you were a smart, level-headed person who is into politics, who is into management, city management, what would you do as the mayor of St. Louis? What would be the number one thing you would do on day one? Go.
Well, it wouldn't be universal basic income, which is what they're trying to do.
Okay.
It would be clearly, I would bolster the police department. Yeah. I would hire more police. I would put a better leadership system in place. And then we would actually go out and fight crime like Trump did, because Trump targeted crime specifically in the city of St. Louis.
Yes.
We had these multi-task force folks that came in, and they made thousands of arrests. And guess what happened? As soon as Biden gets elected, they do away with the program. Yeah. Trump was taking thousands of criminals off the streets right here in St. Louis City, and no one even talked about it.
If I was the mayor, it would be shock and awe. it would be like it would look like going into
Shock and awe.
It would look like Schwarzkopf going into Iraq. It would be crazy. And you would work on that program, and you know who these criminals are, and you know where these cars are being stolen and taken to. And if you're the cops and you're the St. Louis detectives, you know what's happening. You just amplify this sucker. This would look like an operation. It would be Operation St. Louis, and it would be a 12-month operation. And you would clean this place up. You wouldn't worry about business development yet. You wouldn't worry about education yet. You wouldn't worry about anything other than taking crime off the streets. You commit a crime in St. Louis, you're prosecuted, you're going to jail, and we're going to bring back that workhouse.
But then what will you say though when they say, well, you're only arresting and prosecuting black people?
You're not
then
hearing
where would
me.
you go?
You're not hearing me. I don't care what you say.
That's what people say, but it doesn't mean it's right.
I
Which
agree.
is why it's time to have the legitimate and serious, honest questions. Who in their right mind would say police as a deterrent is not going to lessen crime?
Yeah, you don't commit a crime. You don't go.
It's
do
not
the
gonna
time.
You
lessen
have
crime.
police on every corner. You have police in every neighborhood.
Police on every corner does lessen crime. They've done studies on
Bingo.
it.
And how can you in your right mind say that more police is a
Yeah.
problem? Give me a freaking break. If you're saying it, you're being disingenuous and you know it. And if you disagree, let us know. All opinions are welcome here.
Yeah.
But come on.
Community policing.
Let's get real.
I would shame.
Where
Yeah.
has less police ever worked? Show me that study.
Right.
And then we'll talk.
Exactly.
Eric's got $100 bill, a crisp green
Yeah.
$100 bill
Where'd that
to
sucker
prove
go?
him wrong.
Yeah, I got it right here in my
You
pocket.
didn't spend that this
Nope.
weekend?
I'm
It's
saving it for a liberal.
We have to start community policing across the country. That's the problem. You know, they've
No,
Let's
what?
have
No,
the-
no, no,
Let's
no.
have the
We don't-
conversation.
No.
Yes, Eric,
no.
we don't have the number of police
No.
officers in the city. We're like 200 officers down, not to mention the 95 plus that are on Kim Gardner's exclusion list.
You cannot put people
works.
into harm's way.
No, it's
like
not putting
that.
people in
It's
harm's
not about
way.
that. No,
They've done studies of it. I've read the studies, and we'll talk to Ty about what his opinions are. But I'm telling you, they have done a study where they took police officers and put a police officer on a high crime block. And instead of that police officer being more of a bully to people who were committing crime, what they did is they went door to door. They continuously walked around the block, and then they'd sit in their car on that same block, and they got to know the people in that neighborhood. And
Yes.
crime on that block went down.
yeah, you can't.
It
do that.
works.
The man on
They're
the
trying to do that in St. Louis and Chicago. I do know
It
that
works.
for sure.
But we don't have the capacity of police officers or dispatchers right
No.
now to do it.
see the St. Louis police, and I know this when I say St. Louis, just think about it. Whatever the name of the city is in your town, the police in this city, they're reactive. I'm not talking about being reactive.
No, all they can
I'm
do is
talking
pick
be
up the pieces.
proactive.
You can't
And
be
I'm
proactive.
I'm not talking about going and being officer friendly at some high school downtown. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you're a criminal, you know that your little chop shop of cars is going to be busted in the next few weeks. You're done. That's what I'm talking about. The fear of God. Put the fear of God. Put a deterrence into these kids.
We don't have enough police officers. At some point, I hope we can do that.
If I was
But-
mayor, I would have
If
more
you were
police.
mayor.
I'm just going to tell you, I have Democrat friends. 2 of them are lawyers. Heck, even Scott Rosenblum came on this radio show in the past and ripped Kim Gardner, ripped her for the lack of police in the city of St. Louis. Scott is in a job. He's in a situation where he's become the best, or arguably one of the best in America. And he's not worried about cancel culture. He's not worried about what people say, but I know several other Democrats who are friends of mine who would never, ever say publicly that the city of St. Louis or that the city of Chicago, including one in Detroit, a friend of mine, would ever say publicly that the mayor and the officials in the city of St. Louis are doing it wrong because they are scared to death that they'll be canceled for being honest
Yes.
about their feelings. And that's why we try to talk about the issues. Let's not candy coat things. Let's get real. Because if you don't get real, that problem that sits over there is only going to become larger and larger and larger.
Yeah. And what's to be canceled about at this point? You know, there's nothing you can say that would actually get you canceled about
Yeah,
this.
there is.
Man, I remember.
Oh, there's
There-
plenty.
There is.
There's
a ton.
plenty.
Okay. Well, I remember 15 years ago, I went to.
People are just afraid.
I know. I went to 15 years ago. I went to Chicago, Illinois, and I stayed there overnight, and I walked the Miracle Mile, Michigan Avenue, as long as I could. I walked so far. I think I went to the museum, the Natural History Museum, which is way out there.
That's become a very dangerous area.
It is. What has happened in 15 years to where, yes, there was crime and it was bad,
but
it was
not
handled.
all of the city. There are parts of the city that are very safe.
Okay, but it was handled. But what has happened to where if you even attempted to go walk down the Miracle Mile now after 8 o'clock at night, you were really taking your life into your own hands.
I met some students, WashU students from Chicago over the weekend, and we were talking about crime in Chicago versus crime in St. Louis City. And what we're in agreement with is there are many parts of the city of Chicago, even though they have a higher crime rate, but it's not per capita. But there are parts of Chicago you can walk around at any time, day or night, and feel completely safe. You can go to restaurants and bars, never worry about anyone robbing you or breaking your windows in your car or doing any of those things. There is nowhere like that in the city of St. Louis. There is no place in the city of St. Louis where I feel like somebody's not going to try to break into my car or rob me if I sit in my car too long, or if I'm out walking by myself at night. There is nowhere in the city of St. Louis like that.
Yeah, I knew St. Louis was doomed about, I guess, a decade ago when they said we are trying to renovate the St. Louis Rams stadium, which was Edward Jones at the time, I guess. And the city of St. Louis said, oh, hell no, we're not taking money away from our social programs. We're going to vote no on renovating the St. Louis stadium. And I'll tell you why. Because if that renovation would have happened, they would have had business growth, they would have had development, they would have had mandatory security to take care of that area. You would have had 2 amazing stadiums within blocks of each other. St. Louis would have been a thriving downtown area. But the good people of St. Louis City decided that they're not interested in taking away their social money to fund something that was going to make money for them for years and years to come. Well, this is the
politicians making those decisions, and the people support the politicians.
It's a shame.
Which is on average about 28% showing up to vote. It shows apathy. It shows a lack of caring, and it shows a lack of going, you know what? I don't really care what happens. And then if something happens to you, you may have a different feeling. Case in point, there are so many families that spoke to me when I was out doing stories that did care about the crime, like Tabitha said, but not enough. It's not overwhelming enough to go out and say anything, or other issues come into play as well. But at the end of the day, the crime's still there. The crime's not going anywhere. People are afraid to say things. They're afraid to make changes. Oh, Republicans are racist. They'll never help our city. Well, when in the modern era has a Republican taken over what has predominantly been a Democratic-led city, let's just say for 30, 40, 50 years? When is the last time in a major city it's happened or even been given a shot?
It'll never happen.
Whoa, you just blew my mind. You can't do that to me on a Monday morning, because you're right. I can't think of one.
Well,
there's got to be one.
If something isn't working, why not try something else?
It used to work in the city back in the day. I ran into the family back in the day this weekend who actually did a good job in this city. The Webbies. There was a mayor at one time called Sarkis Webby, and he did a phenomenal job in the city. A Democrat, but did a phenomenal job. I ran into his family this weekend, and we were talking about exactly that. And that was the last time, in my opinion, the city felt like somebody was actually doing something positive.
Now, you do realize that Elon Musk at one point was a liberal progressive. You realize that, right?
100% was.
Okay. This is the guy that is going against the Democrats hardcore right now. He's releasing documents. He's exposing them for what they are.
He's worried about hits on his life.
He is. He's basically said, I'm one of those guys. If I die, I'm not dead. I wasn't a suicide. He's the guy that has had enough. He was a blue dog Democrat for the most part for his life. He didn't consider himself a Republican. Something's happening. There's a change happening. We talked about celebrities today saying, you can't cancel me. Screw you. People are taking their lives back. This is a fact.
Some people are. And if you're of certain note, you can do that.
A certain note,
without fear.
Well, and Elon Musk is South African. He's not Native American. Being that he's not from here.
He's not an Indian.
I was like,
that's not what I meant.
What the hell are you talking about?
There's several different terms for Native American. I mean
I get your
that
point.
he was not born here in the United States.
Okay.
And so I think that he sees things from a different perspective. And I truly don't think he's coming out against Democrats. I think he's coming out against misinformation and mistruths. And if it were the Republicans, he would come out and tell what we've been doing, and he's going to do the same thing for Democrats. I think he's just fighting for freedom of truth.
Well, one thing that we didn't even get into last week was the Rams settlement. The Stan Kroenke, when he illegally, I repeat, illegally took the Rams from St. Louis to Los Angeles. Now, St. Louis didn't exactly treat Stan Kroenke the best that they could have in the beginning, but at the end, it was no doubt, it was 100% on Stan at the end of that. Now, St. Louis screwed up. They did. They screwed up. They screwed up, and they screwed over Stan in the beginning. We could have had the Rams, as Eric talks about. We could have. And then at the end, when we finally got serious, it was too late. So there was problems on both sides. But he did do something illegal, which is why he stayed away from going to court. So they gave the Rams a big old settlement, $750 million. Well, that money was divided up recently. St. Louis City, this is on top of federal funds that they have received, the COVID money. They just got another $250 million check. The city of St. Louis got $250 million of that. St. Louis County got $170 million. And then the convention center, the America Center Convention Center, got $70 million. What is St. Louis going to do with the $250 million?
We already know.
I promise you right now, not $1 will go to improving St. Louis when it comes to the policing effort or security. And if they do, I'll apologize. But keep track of that. St. Louis City, one of the worst when it comes to crime in the entire country. What is reimagining policing? That's what we have heard from city leaders. Reimagining. Hey, if it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you can't just say, well, reimagining policing is a 50-year plan. We don't have time.
You're right.
For 50 years. What are you going to do now? Where is that $250 million going?
Reparations.
Well,
I mean, I'm not kidding. It actually is. Some of it is going to go towards a reparation program.
Oh my God.
That's not
You're
a
gonna
joke.
Get us into a whole nother topic.
That is not true.
Well,
yes, it is.
That is not true.
You can look it up online.
Well, I'm trying to keep us on topic, but over the weekend, we did hear that Gavin Newsom in California, when it comes to reparations, we're going to get to this. Maybe we'll do it today. We'll talk about it. $250,000 per person in California. That maybe I saw that over the weekend.
Part
in
of
my study for the
socialism.
show, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding!" And they are dead serious, 100%. That's not just a headline.
And they're moving the Democratic primary, the first one in the state or the United States, to South Carolina. They are completely pandering to a demographic right now.
It's
you don't think Gavin's not running in 2 years? Come on, man.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious where the $250 million for St. Louis is going to go. And if you're in a city,
where's it going to go?
If you're listening to us in another city around the country, where politicians, where leaders are putting the money, or if you have any kind of a surplus ever, where does that money go?
Well, we're putting a Topgolf in on Shodo. That's a wonderful idea, right across the street from the St. Louis Parole Division. And then we're also
Are you being serious or not?
100% serious.
Okay, I can't tell with your
I know, I hate it.
I was like, I can't really tell.
I am 100% serious. They are building a new Topgolf on Shodo. Right next to
All right, hold on.
Right next to one of the most dangerous parts of St. Louis City.
Okay.
They're building a Topgolf.
You know what?
So you're being serious.
I am 100%
There's
serious.
nothing bad about that.
No, I mean, but you're serious about liking the idea.
It's great.
I think it's great for the city, but I don't see how we can keep up with it police wise.
Okay, so you did have some satire.
I'm being serious that the project is actually happening.
Yes.
I don't think it's the project. I'm scared for the folks that are going to go to Topgolf, because when we have
now we're seeing Tabitha.
When we have 24 officers at any given time patrolling the entire municipality of St. Louis City, that's no joke.
You walk out with your own weapons.
Who's going to be over here at Topgolf trying to protect these folks coming in and out of Topgolf or their vehicles from getting broken into every night? And then they have this new development going up just south of the Arch. I'm sure you heard of that, a multi-million-dollar development south of the Arch.
Fantastic.
It's going to connect to the Arch Park.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Things, but how are we going to police it? We can't even ensure somebody's safety at the Jack in the Box on Hampton. How are we going to ensure the safety of this new development and Topgolf. We
figure it
can't
out.
do it with the
That's
police
big money.
resources that we have right now.
That's big money. That's big real estate over there.
It is. And and I'm glad for the city. I think this is wonderful. I just don't see how we can do it without building up our police department first. Who is going to patrol? I don't understand what's going to happen. And I don't think it's going to be good.
Yeah. Well, you have one of the most beautiful cities on the planet, St. Louis, Missouri, with the downtown St. Louis Arch. If you've ever been here, I recommend it highly. It's very historic here. You can't tear a lot of those buildings down because they are registered as landmarks on the Historic Society. I think that it's time. I mean, you have this confluence of this problem that's coming together. Do you develop St. Louis? I say yes, you do. Because you have to. It's the crossroads of the United States. So I don't see any problems in anything you just said. I'm glad they're throwing money at it. You know what? Build it and they will come. Build it and police officers will come. You might even have like little communities down there where it is policed very well. Then that spreads out from there. I think that could happen.
It's
and
that's Eric.
And you know what? That's what I was talking about with the whole Rams Park. Is in Seattle. They had a crappy stadium ripped to the floor, and they put two great stadiums up there. And it helped with economic development. It helped with crime until they let crime come back in because you could shoot up your heroin right next door to Starbucks. But it did help over there. So I'm glad you two good stories coming.
It's going to be like the movie Christmas Vacation. People are going to stop to get gas, stop to go to play golf, and they're going to get robbed and their car broken into.
Christmas Vacation or Vacation?
Vacation.
That did not happen. Eddie didn't rob anybody, all right? And
no,
Christmas
I think
Vacation.
she's talking
Vacation.
about when they stopped in East St. Louis and they had
He
their
kind of
rims.
did. He did. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He robbed them. He robbed his
Mike-
family, not others.
No. At one point in the movie Vacation, they stopped in the city of St.
Vacation,
Louis.
not
So
Christmas
this
It's the
Vacation.
same movie.
This is
No,
40.
it's not.
It's still
Yeah.
Chevy Chase.
Christmas Vacation
No, it's not
and
the same movie.
Vacation are
Okay, so
different.
they went to Wally World in this one. That's
Yes,
the one.
That's
Right.
the first
And they
one.
stopped in St. Louis,
Yeah.
and somebody what was it? Somebody stole their
They stole
car
their-
or
no, they
something
stole their
happened.
rims.
They got the rims.
Well, it's still a lot
Well,
like
are
that.
there-
you see, you go up here, you make a left.
You make a right,
and,
make a right at the tumbleweed.
stop
That's
line,
how people
you
know
go.
of St. Louis
You
from
see
that
the
movie
burned out
Vacation.
car,
But that
you know.
is Tabitha. hit
Escape
the-
from New York was made here. Think about
Look,
that.
Tabitha knocked this so far out of the park. Even 40 years ago, St. Louis was known as this crime-ridden
It
area.
was. And
40 years ago.
When they made Escape from New York in St. Louis, as a matter of fact, I used to live in downtown St. Louis, and it was made around the building that I lived in. Think about this. They didn't even have to come in and junk things up to make the movie. They just made it the way the city was at the time. Then we
Mm.
cleaned things up, and then now we're back on a downward spiral.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yes,
Oh, well.
yes, it is.
Chris. Okay. Mike, did you want to say something? Okay, I got you.
Well, one thing about that vacation, not to sidetrack us too much, is they were going the wrong way over the Eads Bridge.
I thought they were all called Christmas Vacation, but I guess it's just vacation.
No, it's
Yeah.
Because one time
vacation.
they went to Wally World. Where did they go the other times? Why was it called Christmas Vacation?
Well, everybody arrived at their house.
Oh, that's right. They didn't go on a road trip.
correct. They just burned down their own
That's right.
stuff. Yeah, it was ugly. Today about this, I can't wait to talk to our guest. But it really comes down to this: the time for talk is over. It is over. If you're a city manager, Philadelphia, St. Louis, Chicago, Los Angeles, I can go on, Seattle, Portland. If you don't take a look at the cities that are succeeding, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Pensacola, in certain places where there's good management, you're just going to lose the game. You're just going to lose. That's why I have nothing against Tashara Jones personally. I think Tashara Jones is probably a fantastic person playing canasta and Yahtzee over at your house drinking wine. But she
We
does
could ask
not.
that Cory Walker woman.
But she has no idea how to manage a city. She doesn't know how to pick up the trash in this area. She doesn't know how to put criminals in jail. She doesn't know economic development, Econ 101. Economics will.
No, she just has a different plan.
She has no plan.
I'm telling you, I spent a lot of time with Tashara. She's very intelligent.
I didn't say she wasn't.
She has a plan. It's just not the plan that many in the county or the state of Missouri want.
You know, that 14-year-old kid that died last night.
And people who had a voice voted for her by an overwhelming margin.
That 14-year-old kid that died last night.
Yeah, North St. Louis.
He didn't have time to wait for her, did he? He did not have time to wait for her plan to happen, did he? I don't care how smart she is. There's people dying under her watch.
200 people a year.
Okay, does that sound anything?
And it's not just in St. Louis, it's in Baltimore, it's in DC, it's in Chicago. We talk about this all the time.
What were the
Why not
homicides
change
rate?
the letters?
What were the
It
homicides
was
rate
down
last year?
last. No, it was down last
Was
year.
it what,
And the
260?
city- I think it was a little lower, but I know that the city said it was a successful year because it was down from the previous year.
Yeah. And the thing we talk about then, are you going to get canceled in your community with your friends at your speakeasy, wherever you talk about uncomfortable topics like we talk about on this show? Will you get canceled when you say 2 kids got killed last night in an urban area and it was the mayor's fault or it was the prosecutor's fault?
Why would you say it's the mayor's fault?
It is the mayor's
they're
fault.
doing nothing to stem the tide of crime.
Because they're not
Nothing.
doing anything to hire new police officers.
I always said,
but what happens if kids in St. Louis County are shooting and getting killed?
St. Louis County.
Yeah,
I would say that who's to blame if this
It would be the same situation.
I would say this. You have you're right, Vic. Every situation's a little different. I would say this. Did this guy have a rap sheet? Was he on parole?
They'll probably never know, and they'll probably never catch them because I think the homicides are solved at about 20%. I think that's the rate for the city of St. Louis. We'll never probably know who did it. They'll probably never find out.
I would say people that don't have a track record of shooting and killing people, you don't really have to worry about them. But if you have a track record of being a violent criminal and you're walking around on the streets of any urban area, I would say it's the mayor and the prosecutor and the Justice Department's fault. It's your damn job. Here's what I feel. Your job, make the potholes go away, Vic. Take the trash out of the gutters and make sure that people don't get killed on the streets. Boom. We can go to break.
Well, coming up at 9:00, we've got Ty Dennis. He's a former director of a gang unit in the Atlanta, Georgia area. He is now retired. He runs a city to police, trying to get some trust. Real conversations, which is what we try to have on Cancel This, where you're not afraid to talk, where you're not afraid to give opinions and ideas. A couple other things we have to hit. The president of El Salvador had a major tweet against what's happening in America. El Salvador and Joe Biden. It's going to blow your mind. I want to talk about a firearm story, what's happening in Oregon, plus, if we have time, we've got to get into this reparations story that's happening in California. Tabitha says, if you don't think it's going to happen, it's real. And where's all the money coming from after our government's already put out billions of dollars in gifts? Money out of the air. Poof. Everywhere. Cancel This. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Producer Mike Wilkerson's here. Host Eric Johnson. Tabitha Hassel. I'm Vic Faust. We'll be right back with this. Jump in. CancelThisShow.com. We have content from previous shows on our podcast. Also, you can jump into our show, 636-515-4892, 636-515-4892. And, of course, you can also jump in the video link. Go to CancelThisShow.com, CancelThisShow.com. There's a streaming icon, and then you can also click the link to come in and join us. If you have any questions, let us know. We're back right after this. It's Monday, December 5th. It's 8 o'clock. It's time to rock and roll. Hey guys, welcome back to Cancel This. I'm Vic Faust with Tabitha Hassel, Eric Johnson, producer Mike Wilkerson. I just ate a breakfast bowl in like a minute. So somebody else please talk while I cough off screen.
Record time.
Oh my gosh, this is what happens.
What is a breakfast bowl?
Well, the doors were locked to get to the microwave here this morning. It's awesome. It's cheesy potato sausage goodness.
Yes. Keep talk slow.
I mean,
talk slower.
It's cheesy. Let me do my Eric.
Go on.
Cheesy.
That'll be your first national advertiser.
It's
the breakfast bowl.
It's so good. Hot potatoes.
Was it Jimmy Dean?
With fresh Jimmy Dean sausage. All mixed in a bowl.
That's gross.
Yes.
Goodness sharing.
Gross. Tabitha. It sounds so good.
Tabitha probably likes like liver for breakfast.
Oh, that's even no. I hate liver.
Cow's blood.
I don't like my food to touch. So I couldn't eat anything in a
Wait
with
a
like
minute.
a bowl.
You're one of those.
I am
people.
one of those.
She likes the human blood.
I draw lines between my food and they don't
She
cross over.
comes out late at night.
Tabitha, so you don't like casseroles.
I like hash brown casserole.
You don't like omelets.
Not a big fan of omelets, but I'm not a big fan of eggs, period.
Oh my God.
But I definitely don't like things to touch. Food does not belong necessarily together.
What? Peanut butter and jelly?
Oh, that's disgusting.
At least you're consistent.
I could never eat peanut butter and jelly. That's just gross.
What
What
about
is your favorite food as we go far off path?
Yeah,
oh, well,
all right.
Having
that's
some fun.
easy. That's easy.
What?
Anything that's nachos or tacos is my favorite food.
Well, you're co-
Unfortunately, I'm usually doing low carb, so I can't actually eat
yeah,
those
but you're
things.
combining
Well,
meat
that's
and
true.
and either a soft taco or a
Yeah,
hard taco.
but I'm
He nailed
talking
you.
more like
He
if
nailed
I
you to the wall.
if I have a plate of food,
Yeah.
Cheese?
let's say I have corn and potatoes and
Woohoo.
stuffing, let's say it's Thanksgiving and turkey, none of those things can touch. They have to stay in their own little tiny areas
Okay.
because I can't get a piece of corn mixed with the stuffing or
What?
some potatoes mixed with the turkey. I don't like
What if
any,
you eat the corn first and you have corn
I-
like
I
stuck
always-
up in,
I
you have some
eat-
corn stuck in your teeth and those little spaces?
I would eat it first because I eat one thing at a time. I would eat all the corn
yeah,
first.
but then what if you put stuffing in after the corn and the corn stuck there? You know that little hole
I
you
don't
have
guess
in your
I have
teeth?
sticky teeth. I don't have any.
What?
I've not I don't have corn stuck in my teeth.
No, Tabitha eats MREs.
I do have some MREs at home. Many. I actually saw one this
And
morning.
Do
she's
you have to heat those up, or are they fine to eat? You just pop open the can.
We have many boxes of MREs at my house.
I was literally kidding. I was just joking. So I
but
could
it's
see
true.
Tabitha in her apartment with her two M16s, her two assault rifles, and a couple MREs, and her little black beret that she always
Oh,
wears.
man. Hey, I'm gonna be ready. You won't be laughing when the day comes.
Can you shoot can you shoot a gun?
Well, of course I can shoot a gun.
Well, because
Do you want to go outside and practice right now?
No, that would be that's the tranquilizer dart situation for
Yeah.
Eric, not me.
Yes,
I
Eric
just
and his tranquilizers.
well, I know I know women who have guns and carry guns, but I don't know if you were like a really good shot or not.
We'll go and do like a little practice session someday all
No,
together.
you know what's fun?
Wouldn't that be fun?
No, I'll tell you what's fun is skeet shooting.
I've never done that,
Pull.
Yeah.
and I think I would
tried.
be bad at it.
There was not one clay pigeon that blew up when I was
No,
shooting at it.
but you have a shotgun, so you don't have to hit it directly. You just have to get close.
I probably would be. I'm not good at darts or anything that has to aim very well. No,
Well, I'm pretty damn good at it, so I'll call my shot
Good.
on that.
that's
No
good.
pun intended.
Yeah. That's the weapon of choice, by the way, to have in your house if you're being attacked is a shotgun. Because he's right. You don't have to aim directly.
I thought you were gonna say a clay pole.
Yeah. Definitely don't want like
What
some
the-
small little 22. You want something that's going to do the job for sure.
Or you got to maim somebody at least, right?
With salt pellets.
I'm not even going to tell you what we have at my house, but that would solve that problem. I'll send you some photos.
I'm waiting. No, you have to now.
For those who
have
don't
to.
know, and Tabitha said it publicly, she has a bunker somewhere. She's been saving for years. So we may laugh now, but we hope to God it doesn't happen, but it could be, where water's gone, canned foods are gone, ammunition is gone, but Tabitha is sitting pretty.
In my house, we will be ready.
Do you guys remember the day I would like back in I don't know how old you guys are, but back in my like the late 80s, early 90s, you would hear these people talking about it's time. I go, what? It's time for what? You need to start preparing. You need to start hoarding food. You need non-perishables. The days of the new world. That's when I first heard the new world order. And you would listen to me go, you're a
You have
nut
now
job.
said it for the first time on this podcast in our 6th day.
What's that? New world
The
order.
phrase finally came up.
But it was
The
like in the
new world order.
It was like in the early 90s, the new world order. And the people who would say it were like nuts. They were crazy. They never brushed their hair and they were like always, this is coming. Your day of you got to prepare. Early 90s.
Now you're crazy if you don't prepare.
Right. Now you're crazy if you don't repair.
So Tabitha, what do people need to start preparing? What are you getting? I mean, I guess you would start with
Ooh,
water.
good question.
Yeah, of course.
Tabitha's already-
Water's number
Tabitha has
one.
already when COVID
Water
hit,
is number one.
Tabitha started preparing.
Yeah.
Now she's our tight friend, but she won't disclose her location.
Yeah.
She won't tell us all that's there.
She does have a house that's
But-
out in the sticks.
So she makes frequent trips to like areas unknown.
Yeah.
Areas unknown. Well,
What you start with water?
True story.
yeah, obviously you need to have water, but Colonel Joe Adams changed my mind on one thing.
I've heard of them.
Because a lot of people are always stocking up on cans,
Mhm.
canned food, perishable food. And Joe Adams like completely blew my mind one day. He's like, no, you need dehydrated food because if something happens and you have to leave your home, are you going to pack up a bunch of backpacks of canned food?
Mm.
He's like, no, you're going to want to, something more lightweight that you can pack as much food as you can.
Ramen noodles.
And so,
right?
well, that
Ramen.
Beef
maybe,
jerky.
but they
Beef
would
jerky.
be
Right?
beef jerky would be better than ramen noodles.
Why?
Well, because how are you going to eat you're just going to eat them hard as a rock?
Yes.
What if
We
you
said-
don't
Let
want
me
to eat
guess.
your water?
Let me
Yes.
guess,
Hold
you
on.
don't like
Hold
ramen.
on. Oh my God. I
It's
can't
not
believe
that
you
I
just
don't
said
like
that.
it. It's just too much sodium.
So
I
when
don't
we
think
when
that.
we were on a tour bus way back in the day, bags of ramen that you didn't warm up or put water on at all. You did. You
This
ate
couldn't
them
have been
dry.
a shooting star.
Sounds
Yes.
horrible.
But you guys were a big deal with Shooting Star. I mean, people actually knew you across the
I don't
world.
give a damn if you're in Motley Crue or if you're in Metallica. They have crazy stuff like this all the time.
Yes.
Ramen noodles all over the place.
Vince Neil was not just eating ramen noodles.
Well, you can tell that's for damn sure.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Cookies and cakes for old Neil.
He's
But,
definitely Dr. Feelgood in the kitchen.
No, but man, ramen noodles would be a good one. It's light. You can pack a lot of them, correct? You don't really need water for them. Putting the nice little spice on it's great. But if you're in a bind, it's carbohydrates.
No, thank you. I would rather have
You're way too
dehydrated.
bougie
What
for
is
that.
your favorite? What
Dehydrated
is your
foods.
favorite dehydrated food?
Well, I've never eaten any of them. I don't know. But I mean,
You need to try one.
I've
if you're
not-
collecting.
I
them
do have
first.
some. I have a ton of dehydrated vegetables and fruits.
Well,
And I think that, but you know what you really need, guys, is you need something to barter with. So I would go out now and buy your cigarettes and things that you can
What
barter
the
with
hell?
someday.
What?
I'm telling you,
You mean vape pens?
cigarettes,
Nobody's that. I mean, some. Okay.
cigarettes,
What?
ammunition. It's
I
going to
like the
come.
way you think, but
I don't really expect anything to ever get to the point where you need to do this. But for those folks out there who really want to be prepared,
Yeah.
you have to have something
Mike,
to
is this
barter
good
with.
content for the podcast?
it doesn't matter if it is or not. I'm fascinated by
I'm
this.
just curious.
Completely fascinated by Tabitha Hassel's.
Tara says booze on the comment line. I'm to Tylenol. I'm telling
She
you,
goes cigarettes. Something
I-
that's going to kill
I
you.
don't smoke. But you know what?
Hey,
People,
this is the joint, Eric.
Yes.
This
people
is the
who
joint. Give me my
smoke,
10 cigs.
Yes.
they will want to trade you
Mhm.
food for a pack of cigarettes.
makes
Oh,
sense.
well, bartering
Water
thing.
for
Gotcha.
cigarettes. You need things
Gotcha.
to barter with.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of things you
Ammunition.
can barter with in life, going
Yeah.
even back to
Yeah.
the beginning of time.
Yeah, no doubt.
I wasn't going to go there, but yes.
It is what it is. If times are tough, I know. I hear you.
The
Vic's gonna be
Tabitha
standing out on
Hassel
a corner.
Survivor Kit.
Brought to you by
2 free pack of cigarettes.
actually
so silly.
Marlboro
Love it.
sponsoring Tabitha.
And ramen noodles.
Well, and that's like jewelry. I always tell people if
Don't
you
forget
have
your jewels.
buy gold and silver if you
Yeah, I
have
can
to. You're buying jewelry not in some type of value.
Tabitha, I'm dead serious. Here's our deal. On your page on the website, because we're in the process, we're an evolving show. We'll each have our own site set up. You can sell your products. Eric can sell his guitars.
I would
and his
buy it.
music.
I would buy the Tabitha Hassel survival kit,
And
especially if it had Marlboro lights in it.
I mean, seriously, she'll have
Yeah.
Ammunition, gold, and Marlboro lights,
ammunition. What kind of ammunition?
and a bottle of whiskey.
A
What's
couple of hand grenades, some ramen noodle. You're good.
life's been good. But here we go.
And a black beret.
Not a bad idea.
Okay.
I-
I'm
you know,
sorry.
I mean, I bet I'm dead serious here. You really do have your survival kits, don't you?
I absolutely do believe
Yeah,
that
do you feel
people
like you're
have
being a
to
li-
be prepared. And
Really?
yes, but I think
Prepared for what, though?
you know what? It could be anything. It could be rolling blackouts. It could be a bad storm. Look at that storm we had back in 2009 where we lost power. I lost power for 2 weeks.
Has there
because it was
been a
iced
time
over.
in this country, and maybe there is, where people died of starvation and dehydration because
during
of a
the
storm?
Depression,
The
people
Great
died.
Depression.
Because of a storm running through St. Louis or any town. But they didn't have
People
Walmarts
died.
back in the Great
They did.
Depression, Vic.
Hurricane Katrina, people died because they couldn't have access to water. And who knows what's coming our way.
Really.
The way I always think about it, every person should have at least 2 weeks of things prepared. Even if you're not expecting anything to happen, 2 weeks prepared. But here's my big issue, and what I feel like I'm preparing for is we've been very lucky. We've been very lucky so far, but I think our luck is running out. And
Damn!
It is. Our luck is running out.
From what? What is going to be the threat?
There are many
serious
threats
questions
taking place right now. Look at how serious the nuclear threat has been.
Okay, so nukes
against this country. That's been a really big topic lately. I believe it's absolutely true. Do I think we're going to have a nuclear war? No. But do I think it's possible? Yes, because Putin will not lose. So how far is he willing to go? We don't know, but he is willing to go all the way. I'll bet you that. And we're not going to let him win. So I do believe the threat of nuclear war is possible. Mm-hmm. I do think it's possible we could have terror attacks in this country. We're here sitting on the New Madrid fault line here in the city of St. Louis. That they're 50 years overdue or for an earthquake or something like that.
But you can't really put a time limit on it.
Well, you can't. But the thing is that everyone should be prepared because you don't know what's coming your way. What if the power grid that we use in the Midwest is highly stressed? That's been very publicized.
Well, we saw what happened in Texas too last or 2 summers ago.
Well, also 2 winters ago. 2 winters.
Look at North Carolina right now. There was a vandalism attack on some power substations. 45,000 people right now in North Carolina have no power.
Okay, you bring up some great points, but just in general, you are kind of a fatalistic type of person.
I wouldn't call it fatalistic because at the same time, I'll tell you that I don't expect anything to happen, but I think people need to be prepared for it to happen because I'll tell you what, we are literally, we're on such a fine line right now between something crazy happening. Look at all of the reports that came out around the election when they talked about violence at the polls. Look at how upset people are about the January 6th people being held in prison without due process. We are on the very edge of a revolution in this country. I think anything's possible.
If you spent
is close 5 years or 30 years? Because if you look at time.
Yes. I think 5 years I think it's closer with 5 years than 30 years because we're at a boiling point right now. What's going to happen if crime continues the way that it is? Are we just going to sit back and take it? Or are you going to do something about it?
But what does that mean?
It means that at some point, I think in this country, we are going to have some type of revolution because we continue to have these leaders put in place, like in the city of St. Louis, and they're not only destroying their city,
so we're going to fight,
but they're destroying our county.
Who's fighting who?
I think at some point it's going to be a political war. Republicans against, let's say, Democrats, liberals against conservatives. I think something big is going to happen because if they keep stealing elections, we have to do something. Look what's happening in all over the country. Look at Sri Lanka. Look at Brazil. Look at China, what's taking place right now. People are on edge fighting for their freedom. And we are getting to this point here in this country where we have to do something. We can't keep sitting back and taking it. We have to do something.
Eric, you want to interject? I have something on that too.
Well, I think Tabitha's right. I don't think that the revolution is going to be fought with guns. I think it's going to be fought with the U-Hauls. I think people will get tired of sitting in the St. Louis, Missouri, and they will find their way down to a Sandestin, Florida, or a Pensacola, or to a Atlanta.
If you have the means.
I just think that anybody has the means to do anything. Even if they get in there, just get a nice pair of tennis shoes and walk out of their community. You all have the means to do it. I think Tabitha's right. It's good to be prepared. The fatalistic stuff is not going to happen because we have too many Walmarts all over the country. So I think that she's right. But I'd tell you what.
Did you go to Walmart during COVID? You couldn't find stuff.
Did.
I was just going to say, there's been times already right here in our own country. We forget so easily. We're so fickle. There's been times where there's shortages of medications. There's shortages of all kinds of different products. People are fighting in the aisles over toilet paper. Do you really think we're not heading towards some type of civil war at some point?
The best gift I ever got was about 20 rolls of toilet paper.
Well,
COVID had just started.
Well,
and
you know what? That is a problem with supply chains. That was a problem with you can't come into the Long Island port because you don't have the right COVID paperwork or whatever it was, or there were no workers. It's also a sign that the government's completely, looking back and doing a postmortem on that, it's just you're incompetent. You didn't see this coming. We talked about it on our show. You didn't see shutting down schools and commerce and all this stuff was going to be really bad coming out the other end.
We have bigger problems than that. You know what? We have about 20 days left or less of diesel exhaust fluid. What's going to happen when we run out of diesel exhaust fluid?
No, that's
what's going to happen. Yeah, if we have a railway strike.
That's a legitimate concern. And is it fair to say that our country has gone downhill, let's say, in the last 4 years? Can we all agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Gone downhill from a financial security standpoint.
Yeah.
A economic standpoint when it comes to products.
Yes.
Okay. On the heels of what Tabitha was talking about, I think this applies and it's apropos for the conversation. The president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, pretty much put Joe Biden on blast. If you have not seen his tweet, you could look him up. Nayib, Nayib. He's the president of El Salvador. You can look up the name on Twitter. Quote, "The most powerful country in the world is falling so fast that it makes you rethink what are the real reasons." This is coming from the president of El Salvador on Twitter.
And we said the same thing here.
He goes on to say, "Something so big and powerful can't be destroyed so quickly unless the enemy comes from within."
I remember when he
that
said
gives
that.
me chills.
Yes.
I did not see that.
That he had come out and said that.
And that was what, about a month ago? I
I didn't know exactly.
I remember when he made that statement, and it's chilling, and he is 100% correct. Our country is being destroyed from within.
He's making a good point.
And
how can
that shook you a little? I see it on your face.
Wow,
man.
it did, because
we need some fireball. By the way, it's my fault. I have not brought any fireball in.
That's a Friday thing. Don't worry about it.
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday fireball.
Yeah, Friday. But let's talk. He's right. The only way you can destroy a country that fast is from within. That's the only way you can do it. By overpaying for everything. I mean, trillions of dollars out the door, debt's going up,
printing money out of
nowhere, interest rates are going crazy,
lessening military, lessening
no
police.
Borders. I mean,
we
go on.
Increasing crime in cities with a lack of a deterrent, a la police,
putting a lot of fear into society with a lot of crime. George Soros is of the world coming in and funding these rogue prosecutors. This guy is. We talked about this on this show. We were like, there is something going on. You can't look at each little problem by itself. You've seen a blanket, like one of those, a blanket that you put all the patches together, a patchwork blanket. That's what's going on. You have to, if you're talking about the border, how does that correspond to bankrupting this country? Basically?
It all corresponds.
How does that correspond to making every city crime ridden? Because they could fix
It's
this.
all about the same thing. It's all about socialism. They want to break us apart.
Who is they?
Chaos.
Who is they?
Yeah, this show is called Cancel This. So we need answers now. We need to know what the names of these people are. Is it just George Soros? Is he the only guy on the planet doing this stuff? What is the mechanism? What is the mosaic of what's going on? He's right.
All the leaders.
Right. Everything is like a shiny object. The border is a shiny object to, basically killing the dollar. Killing the dollar is a shiny object to cities going into crime-ridden states. That's the problem. Is everything is a squirrel. Every time you focus on a story, there's some other story going on. Basically crime in urban cities is a shiny thing for killing our military.
It's all part of the same project.
Well, from the Facebook line, Todd says the satanic run leaders, Vic.
What does that mean? We can't just have hyperbole.
Well,
Beatrice says
they are.
They're hiding in plain sight. Kevin says they're globalist.
Okay.
We accept all opinions on the show. We love to talk to everybody. We want everybody to have a voice because not everybody has a voice in local news or world news or your local newspapers. And here you get your voice. And that's why the guests are coming. And speaking of guests, coming up in about 35, 40 minutes, Ty Dennis of Cops and Clippers, is going to be joining us in studio to talk about the crime issue, to talk about how he's trying to bring police and youth and men from the inner cities together, and what he's seen around the country from his standpoint of working as a policeman and then focusing in a gang unit in Detroit, or excuse me, in Atlanta. He'll be coming up to talk to us about those shows, or about those things on our show in about 30 minutes or so.
A guy that has all the internal knowledge to know how to fix all this stuff.
But it does make you think, and it's not just the president of El Salvador. We've had other world leaders come out over the last year and go, wait a second, something's not right with America. Be careful about what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, you have
definitely.
to, but these guys don't see it that way. And you know that Joe Biden is he's a toy. He's like a cat toy. He's just being pawed at right now. He's not allowed to take questions. He has to literally listen to, look at a sheet of reporters that he calls on. He is just, and he's compromised. You're looking at all this Elon Musk stuff coming out, and all of this Hunter Biden stuff that's coming out. His son handing his dad cash. They didn't have cash. These guys were handed cash by China. They were handed cash by all these foreign countries because in the name of doing business, Ukraine. Right? So if China says, Joe, you have to do this for us because we're going to release all this information, they have their thumb on this guy. Remember how they thought that Trump was compromised by the Russians? Well, Joe Biden's compromised. He might be compromised. I don't want to say that. He's not. I'm not going to say he is compromised. He may be compromised. And maybe that's what's going on here, is that this new world order thing is basically, it's the elite saying we're going to make this happen, and it's going to happen fast. I hope that's not the case. When Trump was in office, we did have a sense of a patriotism. We had a sense of growth. We were the leaders in this world, but it's gone within 2 years. And the president of El Salvador is absolutely right.
Well, Joe Patterson is also saying, hey, Vic, El Salvador is run by a dictatorship. Probably not the best person to cite for his opinion. So fair enough.
It doesn't care I don't care if he's a zookeeper. He's just witnessing the United States
and
going
the Kremlin
down. Yeah. It doesn't matter. He's basically the president of a country in this hemisphere. And he's saying, look, I've never seen anything like you. Were the mighty America, the United States of America. What happened to you guys? That's all he's saying. It's like if you live next door to a beautiful mansion and all of a sudden they put a frat house in it, it's going to get destroyed pretty damn quick. That's kind of what happened here.
Well, this may blow your mind, but we're already almost there, Eric. It's already almost over. The power shift is already in
what is almost over?
In the wheels of
what
the
are you
cog.
talking about?
Well, the power shift that's already taking place. Why is all this happening? Why is our country being destroyed from within? We're already at the end. We're already at the end. Now,
some people say we're at the end of a financial standpoint because of the dollar and what's happening.
No question about it.
Internationally.
The power of the United States is already at the end. We already see BRICS rising. This whole war between Ukraine and Russia has given Russia so much power. We put all of these sanctions. Yeah, we put all of these sanctions against Russia, and all that did was make them a more powerful country. We are coming at them, us being the West and Europe. We are coming at them with everything we have, giving them money, giving them weapons, and all it's doing is making Russia stronger. It's hurting us. It's hurting Europe. And now we have BRICS rising. And now we have Algeria.
You need
Saudi Arabia.
Can
all
you
these
explain
countries.
BRICS really quick? Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if many people and listeners understand truly what BRICS is, what the intention is, and what's going to happen because of it.
Well, BRICS is the opposite of NATO. It's the opposite of NATO. And BRICS opposes everything NATO in the West does. And these are folks who are tired of the United States being in power. They are tired of us pillaging their countries for their natural resources. And they are coming together to form a bigger union than what NATO is. And that would be Russia and Brazil and India and China and South Africa. So these countries have come together, and now we have Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Iran, Egypt, Turkey, all wanting to join BRICS. And when these countries do join BRICS, BRICS is going to have a higher GDP than NATO or the G7 countries. They're going to have a higher control over population than NATO.
But that sounds, is this a bad thing in your opinion or a good thing?
It's a very bad thing for us.
But from the Facebook line, Kasia, who is from Poland and experienced communism as a young child, I believe that was fair to say, said that they oppose the central banking system.
They do oppose the central banking system.
But the central banking system has a terrible reputation when you really do the deep dive into conspiracy theory and what's happened in this world. And then the only countries that are not a part of the central banking system and those who haven't been over time, and what happens to you as a country if you're not a part of the central banking system.
All of these countries are against using the US dollar. And what they're all doing is they're all conforming together to use the Russian ruble. And so the ruble is rising, the dollar is falling.
It's at an all-time high.
And we're propping up the dollar by printing out fake money. And all of the stats we see about the dollar, it's all fake. At some point, it's all going to come crumbling down. But when when all these countries join BRICS, particularly Saudi Arabia, when these countries join, BRICS is going to have so much money, and they're going to have it's going to be a complete power shift.
But bringing it all back.
What's going to happen in the end?
What can Americans really do about it? Because and one thing that's frustrated me a little bit in life, I don't see Americans caring about world news. Maybe
we don't. And I do.
You're an expert at it because you study and you put your time into it. But I don't see people like, I'm going to go watch PRL this weekend.
We have to worry about world news.
Americans don't care about
I know
world
they don't.
news.
And you know what, Vic? They won't care until they're sitting in their house with no food, in the dark, with no gas in their tank.
But
it's going to take that.
Well, we try to educate it as part of our mission with this show, because you are an expert at it, to get people talking about it. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure Americans feel like they can do anything. So if they feel like they can't do anything about it, why am I going to care?
We can do something. We can get out and vote.
And especially people who are 35 and younger.
Because I can guarantee you, if Trump, first of all, as you know, he wanted to withdraw from NATO. He wanted to withdraw from the UN, which I believe is part of the reason why they came out so hard against him. Because if Trump were still president, he would have withdrawn from NATO and from the UN, because we don't need to be giving those folks 2% of our GDP. And what we're going to see happen if Biden and Democrats continue to rule this country, BRICS is going to be the superpower. There is no question about it, because they are countries like Russia and India and Saudi Arabia, Brazil, all these folks that don't want any part of globalism. It's all about globalism.
Ooh,
they are against globalism. NATO is for globalism. And it's going to be a war unlike anything we've ever seen. There's no question about it.
You're right. I don't see Saudi Arabia saying, yeah, we'll let you lead us. I don't see
to the United States.
I don't see China doing that. I don't see it. You're right.
Well,
You're
China,
right.
Russia, Brazil, South Africa, and India are already BRICS.
Well, I see China in a little bit more of a sticky situation, because they are a capitalist communist country. So they do have to play that the money game to some extent. But you're absolutely right. And you're absolutely right about this as well. You have to vote. But the problem is kids these days are voting on transgendered issues. They're voting on Roe versus Wade. They don't even know what BRICS is unless it's a club downtown.
Gay marriage rights that are happening right now.
That's what they're voting on.
Rule, right?
That's why the Senate was not won, is because the Supreme Court basically put up this Roe versus Wade thing and basically shot it down. If that wouldn't have happened, you would have had 52 Republican senators, and you probably would have had another 30 representatives in the House of Representatives.
But that's how politics are played.
Exactly right.
That was leaked early on purpose. And we also would have, and nobody ever was brought to justice for leaking that information on what the Supreme Court was planning on doing. Yet we can find and take care of so many other issues, yet the person, and it would have been a very few and easy to find, what has never been brought to justice for leaking that information.
I know.
Supreme Court.
If that was a Republican that did that,
Well,
it would have been
Republicans feel that would be
that fast. It would have been that fast.
Democrats say no, that's not true.
It's the damn truth. It's quantifiable.
But
it's quantifiable.
maybe this is why we need a revolution.
You got to stop throwing that word around until you have some. No,
I can guarantee you, I speak for a lot of folks out there who 100% agree that if we don't do something major, it's going to be too late.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Late.
What does it mean? Do something? A revolution?
would never advocate for violence. Of course,
Well,
I don't. No, I didn't. A revolution doesn't have to be violent in the street.
I said it's move. You got to move.
Move where? Where are you going to move to?
Florida,
Florida's part of the United States.
Montana.
I mean, you're going to move to Russia because they're going to be the superpower.
No, I think, like you said, it's like the Ron DeSantises of the world are basically pushing back against anything that is a progressive agenda. And so is Texas.
We are not going to.
And so is Montana.
You know what?
We're
You're
going to lose.
From the Facebook line. You're just like Bernie Sanders. He called for a revolution too. Who would have thought
And
that you
he's
and Bernie
won.
Sanders?
And Bernie Sanders has won the revolution because all the folks who are in office right now for the Democrats are mostly Bernie supporters. They're people that the Bernie supporters put in place. The Bernie supporters are the folks who are cheating and getting these elections called for Democrats. If we don't start doing something now, if we don't, people think, oh, revolution, that's such a big bad word.
It is.
We're going to get in trouble.
It is.
Eric, if we don't start doing something now, we're going to be living under China's rule. We have to do something now.
Hold on.
We have to do it now.
As long as
we've waited too long.
They already control us with TikTok.
They already
I'm
control
gonna
us
say this. Look,
in a lot of
here's
ways.
the deal.
I'm sorry.
This is how I feel about it. If you can keep your elections secure and everybody agrees these were legitimate elections. Everybody went to the polling stations like we talked about earlier.
Where was this a little?
Hold on.
Where was
I'm
this?
saying if everybody in the country goes, yeah, there's no way they could have cheated this thing. If our elections are secure, then I think that every generation has the right to build this world the way they want to build it. If that means that the Gen Zers are the ones that want to go to the polling stations and they want to vote on LGBTQ, if they want to vote on social issues such as Roe versus Wade, that's their prerogative.
So you're saying you're willing to give up your country for new voters?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying if these people vote for the Joe Bidens and the Cory Bushes of the world, they've made their voice known. And if they understand what, now I don't think that I don't think that the news outlets are reporting what's going on. I don't understand what BRICS is. I do hear what you're saying.
Because you're not going to hear about BRICS in local news.
Right.
That's right.
You very rarely will hear about it on national news.
Because, Eric, if people knew, if we start educating
it's very
people
concerning.
to the truth of what's going on, there will be a revolution. They don't want you to know.
All right, stop. But the revolution is not against people versus people. It's the people.
It is against people.
No, hold on.
People.
It's against people versus MSNBC and CBS and not getting the information out to people. That's where the revolution is.
A revolution can be a lot of things, but I'll tell you what.
At it like
if you were leading the revolution today, what are you doing?
I would be in prison if I told you what I would do right now. So we better should just keep that to
it
ourselves.
It doesn't look like Red Dawn.
We talk about
what's wrong with you?
They'll come out here and shut this show down.
Come on, man.
I'll have Homeland Security at my door.
You go to a football game. You go to
violence.
a football game at Chief Stadium. It's still United States of America. There are still liberals and Republicans cheering on the Chiefs. It's not the people versus the people.
Well, let me ask you
basically,
guys.
Hold on. It's basically saying this. The Elon Musk is giving you a nut. He's basically saying, here's the documents that said that White House was colluding with that media company. And if they were doing it with this little media company, imagine they were probably doing it with CBS, NBC, ABC, every local outlet on the planet.
And nothing can be done about it.
And then that's where your revolution could happen.
Things can be done. That's where we get things wrong.
What can be done?
Okay, here's one thing people can do. You can go and work the polls yourself. Go and work the polls. People can register and work the polls. When you work the polls, if you sit out and you watch ballot boxes all night long and you have a camera with you, that stops some of the election fraud. If we're not there and we're not, how many people do you think were Republicans were sitting in the city of St. Louis at these polling locations, watching what they're doing? I'm going to say none, because they had a very difficult time trying to get anyone at these polls. And then that's where they do all the cheating. We as conservatives, we have to do more. We have to do more. We have to be at the polls. We have to watch these ballot boxes. We have to bus people. We have
So
to
that's
do anything
part of your
we can.
revolution.
Part of the revolution is we have to legitimize voting, and we do have the power to do that. You know what? We got Trump in office. Why? Because people were tired of the spiral under 8 years of Obama, and we came out in droves. We got the job done. We got Trump in, and then we became complacent. We cannot become complacent, but we're at the point right now where it's almost too late for voting, too late for it to count, because our country, look how fast we're spiraling down.
CancelThisShow.com. That's what we are. CancelThisShow.com. You can go to CancelThisShow.com. I'm Vic Faust with Tabitha Hassel, you just heard talking. Eric Johnson trying to figure out what Tabitha's talking about. When it comes to the Eric's got that creative mind. He's thinking about how to market this with shirts and hats and
it's going to be a little beret that says Tab on
and
it.
Mike and producer.
Yeah.
They better say revolution on it.
Alongside,
Yeah.
we get serious, we have fun, we try to have the conversations that people are afraid to have, all in hopes of educating and entertaining, all mixed into a live 3-hour show, 7 to 10 a.m., building lots of compelling content, at least we feel, on a daily basis for our podcast. CancelThisShow.com.
I look at this show as kind of a journal. It's like we'll look back at this 5 years from now when Tabitha's in the bunker, and we'll be able to say, look, we were right.
When I'm in the J6 prison.
Oh my God.
I'll be out at Guantanamo. You guys will be looking for me.
Tabitha, don't wish that on yourself.
I would never harm anyone. I joke around. I would never advocate for violence. But I will tell you, there's a lot of folks out there who tell me that we can't win this without violence. I don't agree with that. But there's a lot of folks that say that. But I will tell you what, if people don't learn what BRICS is, if you don't go back and do your research on world news and stop worrying about piddly junk, guess what's going to happen? Pretty soon, this country is not going to be where it's at. And you know who loses? We all do.
I know, but
we all
Tab,
lose.
I agree with everything you've said today, and I'm always fascinated to hear you talk world. You've gotten me more involved in talking world, but that's because we care, and I want to educate myself. But I just feel like it's knocking your head against a brick wall from a national standpoint. I just don't know how many Americans, because of how easy life has been since World War II, how it affects their everyday life.
Look, I agree.
And then if you study and you know everything about BRICS, how are you going to put that information that you have now into your everyday life in regards to improving life in this country?
Mike, I think, Mike, do you have something to add?
I do. We keep talking about strange times and protection and preparation. And I saw a video this weekend that was very illuminating for me that I wanted to share, because it spills directly into the whole prep thing, but more importantly, into what kind of strange times we live in. I saw a video, a friend of mine, he runs a program called Free Field Training on YouTube, and he was running through a series of backpack armor. And for those of you that don't know what this is essentially a bullet-resistant panel that you put into your schooler's book bag.
Yeah.
And as I watched the video, it's amazing because the protection level is jaw-dropping. What is more jaw-dropping, though, is that we have to consider it.
I agree completely.
And it's such a, to use Eric's favorite word, it's such a sticky wicket. Because do you want to prepare for that? And the answer is absolutely not. We don't even want to think about it. But are you? And the answer is, of course we are.
You mean for school shootings? Is that what you're talking about?
Really, it's for anybody. If you happen to carry a backpack and you're looking for a protective panel, the panel will, depending on which one you get, weighs between 1 pound and 4 pounds.
So Tabitha should put this in her bunker.
There's no question. In fact,
I have plenty of body armor.
Yeah. But the protection is amazing. Double-aught buck at 15 feet.
It's been around. The technology's been around
it's
for a while.
Damn.
We talked, believe it or not, I actually talked about this on local news.
It's
with
sad.
A story that something was coming out.
Yeah.
So sad. It's so sad that we've come to this point.
It is. But I also love the other step of its technology. It's the convergence of technology, the needs that arise, and people coming up with stuff that helps to overcome problems. And I love that, but it's a piece of that weird, strange times that we're living in that really spills into this whole BRICS thing as well.
I
strange times for
still
sure.
say if you have a tranquilizer dart, you can do a lot of damage.
You should stock up on those.
No, here, maybe we could come up with a tranquilizer dart that fires like a shotgun. Because we were concerned last week
I like it.
that you wouldn't be able to hit that said leg.
You don't want to kill anybody, but you want them to go to sleep while you walk away.
I always assumed it was a shotgun that shot out the tranquilizer.
No,
darts.
it's literally having a little bit of fun with your shooting. You have to be pretty accurate. You know, it would be like.
I mean, it's never going to work.
No,
what
it would
but we can
totally
talk
work.
about it.
Look,
Eric,
you know, as a matter
have
of fact,
to
let me
come up-
just say this.
You have to put this into production.
No, I'm gonna.
And then you can sell it on cancelthisshow.com merchandise.
And you could put
Part
liquor
of
in
our
them.
Amazon page.
Have
that
you
we're
guys
going to
never
have.
watched National Geographics? Have you ever seen them put down a lion?
Do they put down a rabbit with the same tranquilizer dart they use
Have
for the
you ever
lions?
Look, I'll tell you what. I'll just put Fireball in the damn
How many
thing. I'll
people
put
are
it
you
there.
going to kill?
Huh?
How
No,
many
you're
people
not
are you
going to kill
kill?
anybody.
No, Eric says you wake up in jail with a egg
If
McMuffin.
you shoot a 80-pound person with a tranquilizer dart, with the same tranquilizer dart, you shoot a 300-pound person with it's not going to work
No,
out,
I'm
Eric.
telling you.
And are you going to have to search through your bag for the right size of tranquilizer dart before you?
Tabitha? You're making a mockery of my invention. All right, this is not.
This is serious stuff.
Look, if you can see the camera, you know, a tranquilizer dart for a lion is like that big. It's
is. I don't
big,
know how
right?
big a tranquilizer
Right.
dart for a lion
Okay.
is.
So I'm talking
I
for a human, it would be just like a little bullet. It would be a bullet size, and basically has a little needle stuck to it. Pop, boom, you're good. You're asleep.
What
Good
about
night.
what about the
I
police
can't
officers?
wait to ask Ty Dennis that. In
He's
going
gonna
to
laugh.
It's not gonna laugh.
They oh my god, they hit people with tasers that does
Taser's
nothing.
only gonna piss you off. That's all a
Tasers do
taser is
nothing
gonna
for
do.
some people.
It's the EJ
Yeah.
100. I can already see
As
it.
a matter of fact, the taser will give you a heart attack faster than anything else. Mine, basically, you wake up with a nice little headache and you're good to go. You're in court.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Sorry, go back to the show.
I wish that it would work. I really do.
No, it would, but you don't want it. So
I think we should.
you'd
Like
much
I've
rather have
said,
you'd
Eric,
much rather have a Glock 9
I've said many times we will get a prototype and we will practice it
Okay.
on you. Then we'll
On
see how it
you.
works.
on you. I get to be the first one to shoot it at somebody.
We will see how it works.
We're gonna
Okay.
put it on you. If you, the
Look, here's
people who created the stun gun,
Yeah.
had to go out and show people how
I
it
got
would
it.
work.
I got
Yes,
it.
they did.
I
So
got
they
it.
weren't gonna have
Check it out.
people
No.
automatically
All right.
volunteer.
Stop.
They had
I
to
got
stun
it.
themselves.
I got it.
So we're gonna stun
No.
the crap out of you with
I've
your.
got it. I've got it. This is. I don't even need.
And you're
the-
gonna wake
check
up with
it
an
out.
egg McMuffin.
That's right. I don't even need the gun anymore. And I know we're being silly right now, but I'm dead serious. I'm going to have this thing invented. Basically, I'm going to invent a ring. And you know what a brass knuckle is, right? I'm going to invent a ring that has tranquilizer built into it. And if you get attacked, if Vic, you come at me, the little needle just kind of shoots out and I stab you right in the shoulder and you fall asleep. That's what I'm going to do. That would be actually a great invention.
Here's the problem, though, Eric. It
Man, all of a
depends
sudden
on-
you get this little stinger. I'm going to call it the murder hornet.
Oh my God. You do realize there's.
I'm going to call
different-
it the hornet.
There's different sizes of people, and
It'll
everybody.
make you groggy at least.
And oh my God.
Come on, Vic.
Mr. Police Officer,
Come
would
on,
you
man.
feel better with this gun
All right. You know
or
what?
the EJ 100 Murder Hornet?
Back to bricks. Back to bricks.
That sounded better than back to COVID.
Huh? Back to
That's not it.
bricks.
Yeah, because Eric, the bad guys have real bullets.
Robert says, Eric, we love you, but it sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
It doesn't matter. If you come at me, if I'm coming out of the St. Louis Cardinal baseball game and here comes Tabitha asshole after me because she wants my money. And I bring out my
That's
little
a funny sight.
and I bring out my little ring that has a little tranquilizer in it, and I stab her right in the shoulder. She'll fall right asleep. It's a very fast acting thing.
Not
too.
if I hit you with my bullet first.
Huh? Well, you'll have to catch me first, and then I'll grab you and sting you. I'm telling you, this could be a big
The
deal.
country, well, it all gets back to where this country's going, and that's what we've been talking about during this 8 o'clock hour. It's a very much concern to a lot of people. And what's happening? Do people even care? If you haven't noticed, things have changed. They continue to change. Policing is different. Crime is up all across the country. Things aren't getting better. If they are getting better somewhere, let us know. I know people in Florida are pretty damn happy, or at least they say that they're happy, but crime is a serious issue. People don't want to talk about it. polls show people don't want to hear about crime. They don't want to hear about murders, but they're continuing to happen. Life as we know it has changed. Things can be easy, yes, from a product standpoint, but Tabitha says it. How much longer does this last? How much longer do we get the good life that we've had? What do we need to prepare ourselves for? What are the things that we should be thinking about, or at least trying to teach the next generation? Are parents really doing that? Have parents given up and just said, oh, life is good? You know, we have lasted so long. Nothing's going to happen to us.
It's going to get worse, far worse before it gets better.
Or as Eric has kind of said, I don't think he said it exactly like this, but as he said, the Trojan horse that has come into this country from other borders.
Yeah.
Hey, everything's fine.
That's
And
another
then
issue.
The horse opens up with lots of people with bad intentions.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta. It's just you're right. I don't know about the word, revolution, and I hate that word. I wish you wouldn't have said it, but at the same time, you're right. You have to do something. Well, you have to win the information war. You have to win the information war. And I was thinking, the only way you can really save this thing is you need people, these influencers, to get on your side. That's it. You can't. There's no way Tabitha Hassel.
When's the last time you saw an influencer talking about politics?
Oh my God!
Never.
What?
I only know of
influencers.
I only know of one.
They are all talking about got to get out and vote, and they have their little rainbow bracelet on, and who they're voting for.
No, I meant conservative influencers.
None. Zero.
That's my point.
I'm saying that's what you need. You need conservative influencers, because no one is going to listen to Tabitha Hassel on TikTok that is under the age of 25. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Tabitha can talk BRICS and COVID and same-sex marriage all day long. No one's listening to Tab. Now, if you have an influencer that has 20 million viewers because she knows how to put lipstick on, and you all of a sudden say you have to vote conservative, Republican,
And then that person's going to get canceled.
Then you have it shot.
Well, Jordan Peterson from England, I mean, he's a guy that's out there speaking so eloquently, but I don't know if he's really, and maybe he is, but I haven't really seen him being picked up by people younger than 30 or 35, maybe even, I don't know, maybe 40, but he's fantastic.
I was going to ask you, what is the definition of a conservative influencer? Because there are many.
That
it's a matter of them getting into a mainstream shunt.
That's it. And
that will allow the message to spread, and then people to learn about the message and then spread the message.
No, I don't. That's not what I'm talking about.
That's not
what I'm talking about.
And then you've got Ben
Shapiro,
but
Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, and they're trying.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about some 20-year-old girl that basically has 1 billion people following her because she knows the best fashion trends.
I've got one. I'm going to get in the show.
Go ahead. Who?
I'm going to get her. I started following her because I thought she'd be fantastic for the show.
That's the dynamic.
I'll try to book her this week. She's got a message back.
This is about people that have no clue about politics, but they always chime in on politics because they want their, they're like, if you want LGBTQ rights, you got to vote for Bernie. Or if you want Roe versus Wade, you better vote for whoever. If you think that we don't need police being funded anymore, you need to vote for Cory Bush. And those people are prevalent, and they're able to say that without getting canceled, because that is for some reason it's politically correct to say, if you don't want police, you got to vote for whoever. But if you say the opposite, like we need safe communities and less taxes, boom, now you're on some hit list for being canceled.
Alexander says Andrew Tate, if you don't know who he is. I do like his stuff. Pretty hardcore, in your face. You got to check out Andrew Tate.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd like him.
Yeah. Who's that guy? Who's that guy?
He turns some women off, but it's or a good portion, but
Kid Rock is very influential, but he doesn't seem to have enough power to pull any major political strings.
And
Ted Nugent back in the day
young, we're old. He's old like us.
Is he really?
Yeah.
How come he sells out concerts like it's no one's business
because
anymore?
He sells out concerts to people like us. And I love him. I went to his 40th concert, his 40th birthday in Detroit when I lived there. Yeah. And It was fantastic, but that was a long
Isn't
time
that
ago.
see? That's what I'm talking about. The 18-year-old influencer, right, is the guy that presses the needle that gets people out to go vote early. Hey, have some fun. Go vote early. Show us your I voted card or whatever it is. I think that's what you're talking about, Tab, and that's why you can't win elections, because you cannot rely solely on the retirement home letting them out to go vote to make Republicans win anymore. That used to be the way. On that Tuesday, you would have a bunch of people from churches, from retirement homes going and voting, and they voted conservative. And that's all there is to it.
We
We
outnumber them, Eric. Think about that. We outnumber them. We don't need the young folks to do it for us. We can do it for ourselves. We just have to do it.
Well, we got to take a break, though. When we come back, don't go anywhere. We got Ty Dennis. He'll be joining us live in studio here in the 9 o'clock hour. If you have any questions, you can, of course, jump in on our platforms where you watch it at cancelthisshow.com. Once again, cancelthisshow.com. You can also think of the questions you want us to ask. Ty Dennis was director of a gang unit in Atlanta. He's now traveling the country, speaking on a variety of topics, trying to bring police and people from the inner city closer together, also educating youth all across the country, including now colleges, universities are using him to speak to their athletic programs as well. Just a fantastic, fascinating guy who's lived all around the country. He's going to come in studio and join us. We'll talk about that. If anything else is on your mind or if anything's got your goat, let us know. We'll be right back. Producer Mike Wilkerson is here. Eric Johnson, Tab of the Hassel, and Vic Faust. This is Cancel This. We're ready for the third hour of our 7 to 10 Central show, live Monday through Friday. You can catch our content on cancelthisshow.com as well. Back after a quick break. It won't be that long. Don't go anywhere. Hey guys, welcome back to Cancel This. I'm Vic Faust alongside Tabitha Hassel and Eric Johnson and producer Mike Wilkerson. Happy Monday, December 5th. Glad everybody's here. Hey, by the way, if there's interviews that you guys want to hear, let us know. If there's people that we should get on the show, let us know. We're based out of St. Louis, but we're a nationally geared show. We talk to people from all across the country, at least we want to. We have people watching on different platforms at cancelthisshow.com. Once again, cancelthisshow.com. Hey, share the show. If you like what we're doing, share the show. Let's bring a new flavor to it. All opinions are welcome. We talk about it all the time. But check out cancelthisshow.com. If there's things you like, let us know. Things you don't like, let us know. This show's always been about you when we were on radio. Now we're podcast, and we can do whatever the hell we want. It's fantastic. And, of course, you guys drive it. So keep us going with that standpoint. Also, if there's some, I guess, is it younger influencers, Eric? Maybe from another conservative side, since there's so many liberal, we want to know who those people are too, maybe trying to get them on the show. We're just about promoting, getting out there and doing this. We're just in our 6th day, 2nd week. So here we go, having some fun. Ty Dennis, by the way, is getting ready to come up. We'll tell you more about Ty joining us live in studio in a second with his Cops and Clippers program. Fantastic program. He's coming into studio to join us live.
Can I add on to what you're saying here? What I would really like for everyone to do, not only to share the show, like Vic said, but we are on several different platforms. Even if we haven't worked out our live streaming there yet, even if all of our content is not there yet, you can still start the ball rolling by going out to those various social media platforms and following the show. I mean, you know what? We have, as a matter of fact, our Twitter is killing it right now. Head on over to our Twitter page, which is at Cancel This Live. And I posted it on our Facebook page the other day. Follow us on Twitter. I posted all of the Elon Musk tweets about what he's uncovered in the Twitter document. So you can go there and find that. Follow us on Rumble. Follow us on Google Podcasts, on iHeart, on Spotify, on Clout Hub, on YouTube. You can find us on every social media platform in existence. Follow us.
Eric, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm trying to just kind of make sense of Tabitha's last segment, and I love it.
The revolution. The marketing standpoint from where you're coming from.
I feel like she's back. I feel like that everybody agrees with Tabitha, disagrees with me, which is fine.
No, I don't agree with that.
There was one thing that I did want. I don't want to get into it yet today. I'd like to give it another day, let it marinate, let it increase. But you decided to post on your Facebook, and you said it's one of the most popular posts that you've had. Pretty simple. 3 words: Trump or DeSantis. And it's blowing up.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is.
Go.
Tabitha.
I mean,
yes,
you said you want to talk about it on another day. So I was not going to say anything more.
Can you tease it?
Yeah. I mean, it is exactly that simple. Trump versus DeSantis in 2024. And somebody asked me on my thing, well, what can I choose? Somebody else? Can I choose Kristi
What
Noem?
thing did they ask?
Choose whatever you want. Who do you think could potentially win the presidency in 2024? Now, DeSantis hasn't said he's running.
Mail-in balloting and Dominion voting excluded.
Let's forget about cheating, because we know it's going to happen.
Because I know what you were going to say next.
Yes.
We knew.
If you want to head to my personal Facebook page, I can post it on our show page as well and get another poll going. But I am very curious what people think, because people are throwing it out there, DeSantis or Trump, because so many people think they're going to end up being rivals in this 2024 run.
They are going to be rivals. I'm sorry, it's going to happen. I think that Trump just doesn't have a card to play. The media is completely against him. I think that the media is anyone but Trump. I think they would look at DeSantis as like, okay, at least it wasn't Trump. I don't think that anyone in the media is actually believing that a Joe Biden can win another term in office. Do you guys think
he's not running another term, Eric?
Boom! That's Victor.
Yeah, Joe Biden will not run.
He will not run.
He said he is.
term.
But we as conservatives, we're in a lot of trouble in 2024. We're in a lot of trouble because I'll tell you what, Trump is running. And in my poll on Facebook page, Trump is not in the lead. And what's going
she's teasing it.
And what's going
just tell us. Come on. The trend, we'll find the trend.
Well, no, I mean,
the voting
it's
will
Trump
continue.
And DeSantis, so that's pretty obvious. People are saying DeSantis over Trump. Now, there were a lot of people who said that, and I get where they're coming from, where they say Trump was cheated out of his second term. He deserves to finish his second term. And then there's the other side of folks who say, you know what? I don't want him for X number of reasons, because he's divisive, because I think DeSantis will get a larger percentage of conservatives and we don't want to split the vote. There's so many different places where people are coming from. And I can agree with all of them to some degree.
I hear what you're saying. I think that, unfortunately, I think Trump's time has come and gone. He's just too out there, whereas you have a proven leader in DeSantis who has proven to be able to handle any media that comes after him. Anything that you can throw at DeSantis, he can literally turn around in the media's face. You can't beat him. I'm sorry.
But Trump claims he has dirt on him. So what is that and where does that go?
Then he's really gone.
Or because these two are not going to get along.
No, of course
they're not going to get along.
He already called out DeSantis
he did.
as being unloyal and somebody, I'm trying to remember the exact verbiage, but somebody you can't trust. Now, people in Florida, I think, would love a DeSantis presidency because they love what's happening in their state if they're conservative.
I love DeSantis and I love Trump. But what my concern is, a lot of people said, well, DeSantis isn't going to run. He won't run until the following election, 2028. So let's say Trump runs now. Who is somebody going to run against Trump? Is that going to split the vote? If Trump runs alone, can he get the vote? Pence has zero shot. But can Trump can Trump win an election? Because I think there's a lot of conservatives out there who won't vote for him.
Well, from the Facebook line, Robert says, dirt means look into that family juicing biz, whatever that means. Talking about Ron DeSantis.
I heard something odd the other day. They said that Tulsi Gabbard might run for president as a Republican.
Who did you first hear talk about Tulsi Gabbard?
I don't remember.
She won't win.
His name is Vic Faust.
You were the first one.
Because I was talking about Tulsi when she was running for the presidency, and she absolutely embarrassed our current VP, knocked her out of the presidential race. She was dumbfounded, our VP, dumbfounded, sit on stage. And I was like, hey, I don't agree with everything Tulsi Gabbard is about. And in this day and age, it's hard to find a candidate where you agree with everything that he or she is about. But I was like, boy,
I like her.
I like Tulsi. And sure enough, she got canceled from the Democratic ticket. She got canceled from being a Democrat because she spoke out against this person who was not going to be elected vice president, but be selected vice president to run with Joe Biden. Because listen, she didn't get the vice presidency on merit. She had a horrible presidential. It was terrible. Yet then she was immediately selected to be the vice president or to run for that position, despite not being able to show her worth as a VP. And it was Tulsi Gabbard who destroyed her. Tulsi may come over, but
I wouldn't vote for her.
But she's not really full-go Republican.
She's not a conservative. She's not a Republican.
No, she's an independent.
She's a Democrat is what she is. She's what I call a good Democrat. But even a good Democrat is not a Republican.
Such thing as a good Democrat
or a conservative. So we can't vote for Tulsi as a Republican. That can't happen. So being that can't happen, and so many people say that Trump.
I like her though. I do like her.
I like her, but she cannot be a Republican.
Most of America still sits in the middle. Tabitha.
I agree completely, but we're not that far over in the middle.
See,
she will not get the conservative vote.
If Trump runs, he's not shaking anything up. If DeSantis runs, he's not shaking anything up.
But that'll split the vote.
If Tulsi Gabbard was to run, that would shake things up.
But not in a good way.
You would have a person who would be able to come out and say, those guys are nuts. That's why I'm over here with you guys now. I'm a female. I could be the first female president. You could see a lot of Republicans rallying behind her, couldn't you?
No, I don't.
You could.
No, I don't, because when you go to the ballot box, you have an R and a D. You vote Republican or you vote Democrat. She is not a Republican. She is a Democrat. She's not a Republican. And even though the majority is in the middle, when you go to cast that vote, you have to choose, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat?
And
it makes a big difference.
It sucks. I hate it.
I agree.
I hate it.
I hate it too, but it is the way that it is.
Would a Sam Page been voted into office without the D behind his name? I don't think he would. I think that we need people that have, I don't know, again, never going to happen. But I think we have to get rid of both the political parties out of this country, and you just run
Wipe
as
the
an
slate clean.
individual.
But then we go back to
You just
Trump
run
wanting
as
to
an
change
individual.
the Constitution. It can't happen.
Yeah. The White House, well, Trump said he wanted to change the Constitution. If you wanted to get into that, Tabitha, you can certainly do so. And he said it was because of what happened with the election. And I'm trying to think of the other. Oh, what was the other part of it?
The election and, all the suppression, vote ballot or ballot harvesting, all these different things. It was a combination of a lot of different things.
Elon Musk came in. I mean, Elon Musk weighed in on it too. He says the Constitution was greater than any president. I was surprised that Trump talked about trying to change the Constitution, especially when he also said that nobody should change the Constitution in the past when it comes to whatever. Is it Trump just trying to be relevant? I don't know. But Trump just basically said, when he got into it, he said, with the revelation of massive, widespread fraud and deception and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democratic Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? He said this on
But don't you
social
agree
media.
with him to some degree? I'm a hardcore constitutionalist. I don't want to change the Constitution, but at the same time, the voting system we have in place, it doesn't work. The two-party system doesn't work. The DNC and the RNC are private organizations.
Well, we just saw this last election cycle. It's being proven now. I would have been the first on our old radio show to say, we can't say anything unless it's proven. Elon Musk just proved there was voter suppression in the way that we talked about issues on a major.
But it's getting no play
outlet.
except with Fox News.
It's getting no play except for Fox News. That's even worse. That's
why you can't trust
there.
local and national media. You just can't when it comes to these stories.
So that's
maybe
even worse. If ABC, CBS, and the other news outlets would come out and say, hey, this is a big story. I'm sorry, Elon Musk fair and square bought this thing, and he's letting everybody see what has happened behind the scenes. We need to report on it. So what has happened is a major tech company in the United States suppressed the ability for its citizens to have vital discussions on who was the most capable person to be president of this United States. If the discussion was to come up, and I hope we don't get canceled off of Facebook or whatever we're broadcasting now, because I'm about to say this. If the discussion was to come up, it says, hey, Hunter Biden actually sold favor to other countries. Yeah, we saw about the crack whores, and we saw him doing all of his drugs. We saw him doing all of his drugs online, and we saw him being a crazy playboy.
He thought he was a social media influencer.
Exactly. I don't give a damn about that. Knock yourself out. You can go crack your head off anywhere you want. The problem is he's taking rides on Air Force Two over to China and saying, hey, I'm going to take care of business. I'll meet you back at the plane in a couple of days. And he's over there getting favor from our adversaries.
Yeah. But he is.
And if we were to have that conversation back before the election, Trump would be the president now.
But there are people who are still trying to say, some in media, some who cares what Hunter Biden was doing? You're trying to show why it's important that the son of the president is doing these things and why it could put, quote, the big man in some nefarious positions, correct?
And the discussion also could have completely exonerated Biden. It could have. We could have had this discussion before the election, and some proof could have come out and says Biden had no idea about this, but we didn't have the opportunity to have the talk to do the research.
But does that mean we should go back and change the Constitution?
No.
The Constitution was put together in 1770. Trump's
trying to be relevant. Okay, he's trying to stay relevant. That's
but you
what
don't
he's trying to
somewhat agree with him. I'm not for changing the Constitution, but I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, but you don't change it. That's why he knows that.
I know that.
He's trying to be relevant.
But look, people in Illinois will tell you, and you guys know this, that the entire state is ran on the politics of Chicago. And Chicago's blue, the rest of the state's red. And these people have to suffer because of what happens in the city of Chicago. That's a constitutional change that would correct that. There are people working really hard right now, as a matter of fact, to change that, who want to change
But
the
what
voting
about the
process.
other side, Tabitha? What about the side that doesn't agree with you or Eric or maybe even myself? They want to change the Constitution for
Oh,
themselves.
I agree. I don't want to
Remember
change
the
the
two-word
Constitution.
phrase that I say that's a scary thing for America in this world?
Yes.
Slippery slope.
I
Once
agree.
you start, there's no coming back. And just look about where you would be 5 to 10 years from now and down in the future.
I agree.
Anytime
completely.
you start to change anything, good luck. Here you go. I learned this with my kids with bedtime. Oh, yeah, I'll let you stay up till 9 o'clock. Then it became 9:10. Then it was 9:15.
Kind of like Eric getting here in the morning.
And then
No, the Constitution works on the fact. Look, one thing that got thrown in the mix is that we have all this high tech, right? The high tech stuff was thrown upon us. The social media was thrown upon us. It in theory, it's the brand new soapbox. It's where we used to go to the public square and stand on the soapbox with our megaphones and yell as loud as we can. Now we use Facebook and Twitter and all those other things. That's the Constitution is one vote for one person. It's also a representative. It's where we're in a republic here. So every state does have an electoral college vote. Do those things need
Not
to
for
change?
long.
Do those
No.
things need to change?
It's a big old conversation.
Yeah. I
It-
mean, I don't know.
It's real close to changing right now. You know, I can't remember how many states have signed up. I believe it's 30, over 30 have signed up to change the Constitution to where we will no longer use the Electoral College.
Well, we have a pretty good looking studio, right? I think people love it. Our studio just looked a whole lot better now. We just had our friend walk in and you look
sharp.
ladies and gentlemen, Clippers and Cops, Ty Dennis in studio. Ty, it's good to see you in person, my
Good
man.
to see you all in person. I never did it in person. So this should be interesting.
Ty making his way into studio. We've talked with Ty over the years in regards to his Clippers and Cops program, as he'll tell you more about what he's doing. Since we last checked in with Ty, you've got a lot more going on. Always love that you're supporting the Cardinals as you do. Your Clippers and Cops jersey. Did you design that jersey?
I did. Well, we started doing it just to start to have merch.
Uh-huh.
And then just tried to be loyal to St. Louis. Like I tell people, even though most of my career was in Atlanta, I was sworn at being an Atlanta cop. I was born a Cardinals fan. So.
Yeah, baby.
So I try to pay homage to the home team and different things like that.
And
I love it.
We got serious topics to talk to. We also have some positive. If we could start with the positive, what's happening? What's the latest from Clippers and Cops, and let people know exactly what you're doing, not only in the St. Louis area, but across the country, because I love to get your updates. Hell, when I saw that colleges and universities were now using you to talk to kids, I was like, there we go. Somebody gets it.
Well, since the last time we talked, we've actually did a call in Greece with the U.S. Embassy, basically to moderate a call at their embassy for George Floyd to commemorate the anniversary. They wanted to put a BLM flag for Black Lives Matter, and some of the agents actually had a problem with it. So they actually brought us in to handle the conversation. We had people from 19 countries on the call.
Wow.
So it was pretty.
What were they trying to understand, whether a BLM flag should fly or not?
Well, to some people, BLM stands for a terrorist organization. And to some people, for myself, it's Black Lives Matter. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a cry for help, in my opinion, but everybody sees it different. And so we were able to hash out those conversations with Clippers and Cops. That's what we do. We touch on real topics where people talk about these things, but they can't talk about them in a space where you actually are gaining empathy and being able to understand. All of us are entitled to our opinions, whether I don't know where you come from, you don't know where I come from until we talk. And so that's why I created the program. Since then, of course, with Clippers and Cops, I started the program to go into barbershops, create empathy between law enforcement and the community. We still go into the barbershops once a month, still been doing that. But now we started Clippers and Cops Campus Invasion, where we actually go into the high schools, have these conversations, including the colleges. Georgia Tech basketball and football team has brought us in. University of North Alabama has brought us in. We've been to Clark, Atlanta University, Georgia State University. But when we go into these high schools, we're able to actually talk to these young kids who ages 15 to 25 wasn't really showing up to the barbershop for these conversations. And it was usually an older demographic. So we're like, since they're not coming to us, let's go to them. So we start going to the high schools, and that's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
The kids, they love it because they're like, you guys actually don't talk at us, you talk to us. And we talk about decision making, goal setting, do's and don'ts on traffic stops. Every time we do a mock traffic stop, it blows anybody's mind because a lot of people don't truly, when you get your license, they don't tell you what to do when you get pulled over.
Mhm.
Assume this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Some kids think that when I get pulled over, if I got a bag of weed, I should run. And it's like, in most jurisdictions now, weed is a misdemeanor or a fine.
Right.
It's not worth your life. Me as a police officer, like, I don't know, for people that don't know, I did 16 and a half years in the city of Atlanta. I worked gang violence. As a cop, when I pull you over, I don't know nothing about you. I don't know you. When you get out of the car and take off running, my spidey senses are thinking the worst.
Yeah.
And not only can I hurt you, you can hurt me, or I can break my foot or whatever it is where it's something petty. And so we try to explain to these young people about their options. And with decision making, some of these kids don't know, like, we talk about conflict resolution, but a lot of times some of these young people have never been told what that truly looks like. And we basically explain it. Like, you have on a chain right now. If I snatched your chain, what would you do? Some young people are like, I'm gonna shoot you.
Right.
And we basically explain is that chain, however much you pay for that chain, is that worth 20 years of your life.
I love the education aspect of what you're doing, because you're so right. A lot of these kids, they're not being taught these lessons in their homes.
Right.
They're not being taught in their schools. And the only thing they know is what they hear on the streets. And they need someone like you who they can look up to and can educate them on what you should or should not do in these different situations.
And that's the whole point. The whole point in trying to educate is, if we can save one life, it's a win.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we talk about goal setting. Each one of us got to where we are in this world by setting goals. We talk about sexting, vaping, internet usage, sending pics. Now, in young people, when they date, they send each other pics. And then when they break up, you know, we always at puppy love in high school.
Yeah.
When we dating, we're in love. When we break up, hey, can I get that pic back? No.
It's a weapon.
Right, it's mine now. And the
true.
whole thing we try to explain to them is, if you don't want everyone to have it, don't send it.
Yeah.
And just trying to help them understand the consequences of their actions. I promise you, we've been to all different type of demographics. We went to Columbia, Tennessee, to Columbia Academy, which is an all private white school. And one of the person that brought us was like, and I'm like, no, because if you come from West County, Wildwood, Chesterfield, when you go to college or any university, most universities are in the heart of a city. If you go to St. Louis U, Wash U, you're in the city of Atlanta. When you leave the steps of that campus, you need to know that things, you can be targeted. A lot of college kids have prime merchandise, new iPhones, new iPads, and some people will target you. And so we talk to them about gas pump safety, mall safety. What do I do when I go to the gas pump and somebody's staring at me and making me feel uncomfortable? Be smart enough to say, hey, I got enough gas to go somewhere else. Don't say, oh, well, it can't happen to me. It can happen to any one of us. My famous statement is, we're all one bullet away from death and one mistake away from indictment every single day, especially as a cop and especially as a young person.
Damn, that's profound. What about parents when it comes to this mix, Ty? I mean, you guys can come in and teach kids how to deal with cops and cops how to deal with inner city people that may have different experiences. But at the heart of this, we started our conversation today before you got here. More shootings, more death in St. Louis City. Crime is up everywhere in the country, all kinds of crime, shooting crime, homicides crime. And it seems like it's predominantly in the inner cities, and the inner cities, which are made up of African Americans. And we love you here to talk about real topics. Where do parents come into this mix, and maybe even the gang situation?
Parents have to continue to be parents. You can't just give up on your kids. You got to still be disciplined and teaching your kids right from wrong. I don't care if you're from the inner city or the suburbs. At the end of the day, you can't just have a child and then just leave them to just grow as they please. You have to have some type of guidance. I think that crime is up in every inner city since 20. I just was on NBC Nightly News talking about the officer shortage, because for a lot of officers have chosen to hang it up because of, as a police officer, you have a lot of skills. You garner a lot of skills over years of being a police officer that in the private sector, people want to hire you. And as an officer, no offense, I think we talked about this before, there's no way. Like, I can go be a manager at a gas station and make pretty much the same money. And so a lot of officers have chose to leave the profession. Then it's difficult to chase gangs and investigate crime. And you see some of the people that you've been chasing back on the streets within no time, or they do something and you do your job and they get a light sentence or things like that. So I think that it's a parenting thing. It's our judicial system needs to be, when people talk about police reform, judicial reform. Our juvenile systems in most metropolitan cities are not what they should be. A lot of these kids, it's a revolving door. It's a points, like in Atlanta, we had a point system where depending on what they did, they can go in for a week and then they're back out on the streets and they're back doing the same things. I just watched the video. We always talk about car break-ins. That's probably one of the biggest crimes in St. Louis as well. And usually it's juvenile crime because they're not being punished for it.
And especially now with no bail.
Let me just read this to you. This is from our local news. Story number 1 is 14-year-old is killed in North St. Louis. That's number 1. At least 5 shot, 3 killed St. Louis weekend shootings. That's story number 2. Story number 3 is about COVID. Story number 4 is teen shot killed North St. Louis. New homeless shelter needs volunteers but can't get them due to crime. Police in Berkeley investigated double shooting. I can keep going.
Right.
Parents are looking at preparedness for shooting trainings. Okay. My thing is this. I love what you're doing. I do. But it is driving me nuts that our leadership in St. Louis and all across the country is not going, we've had enough. We have had enough. I'll come out to your school. I'll talk to you about everything you want to talk about. But from 9 to 5, my police force is going to be shock and awe. We are taking you guys down. We know where the cars are that you're stealing. We know where the communities are that you're shooting up. Why can't we have a police just like you guys put bulletproof vests on? You guys have you have assault rifles, and you go, if you're in a gang, you're going to jail. Right. I don't care if you're 16, 14. We're sticking you in the basement until you can figure out how to not shoot up your communities. Right. Why can't we do that and then work on all the other stuff at the same time?
I had working gangs for 10 years. I had a number of relationships with gang members, and a gang member told me, until you're able to change somebody's people, places, and things, you're not able to change their mindset. Right. And so for a lot of these young people, when you go to the city, what options other than gang violence do that some have?
Right.
Rex 2008 was the first thing that went in the inner city. Rec centers, after school programs, which let a whole demographic fall by the wayside. Yep. And so now we wonder why crime is up, because that's all some know.
But is crime up because there's no deterrent? Could crime be up because of a message of like you were talking about, if someone takes your chain, don't chase them because your life isn't worth it. But at the same time, doesn't that empower the criminal, saying, you know what, they're not going to smash every window we want and take whatever we want because we're not going to jail?
It goes to the point of what you're making is we as people have to decide, do we want lawlessness or do we want some type of stability and control?
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to figure out, because at the end of the day, this is the things you just named. I guarantee if you pulled 5 metropolitan cities in America, and you read the top, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
And those are the topics that you just gave and everything that you said. And it's unfortunate because at the same time, do we arrest and throw away the key on everybody, or do we try to figure out the root of the problem?
Is there a way that, and I don't want to throw away any keys, I want every person to be fixed, but is there a way to say, sorry, you're with us until we can figure out how to educate you, maybe in a trade, maybe we just get you out of this area, because the area is part of the problem by itself.
You just said what I just said. Change their people, the people they hang around, the places and the things that they are around. That's why it's called recidivism.
Yes.
Someone that goes to prison isn't rehabilitating anybody.
Right.
When you send somebody to prison, when you get to prison, you adapt to your surroundings.
Yeah.
So if I'm in prison with other criminals that have made a choice to make this their life, guess what? I'm going to adapt to survive in that environment. Then when I come home, if you don't send me to a different environment, you send me right back to the same environment that got me there,
I love what you're saying.
I'm going to go back and do the same thing.
I don't think that we should put any kid in a stone building with bars. I do think, though, that we do need to take them in boot camp. Might be is the wrong word, but I've always thought if you send a kid somewhere, it's like, sorry, you're out of society for a while, but while we put you somewhere, what are you interested in? I would kind of like to be an entrepreneur. Great. What do you think about plumbing? Would you like to learn how to plumb? All of a sudden, now he's not in downtown St. Louis. Maybe he is in Columbia, Missouri, or North Missouri, or something like that. And he's now participating in a 2-year vocational program. He's now an entrepreneur with a skill. You think he's really going to go back to St. Louis hijacking cars?
And it's funny that you say that, because then you give them a trade to make money.
Yes.
When you have a job,
a lot of money.
When you have a job to get up, each one of us have to wake up at a certain time.
Yeah.
You ain't got time to hang out all night. When we were young and you didn't have nothing to do, you can hang out all night.
Yes.
When you get a trade, you have a job, you have a career.
Yes.
Guess what? You have to make.
You have an
decisions.
accountant.
That's it. So some kids do need that. Some kids just need guidance. I promise you, most of the time, once we sit and talk with some of these kids and provide them one inkling of guidance, most of them get it.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's those ones that say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Right.
Those are the ones that you're talking about where you might need to go.
Yeah.
We need to pull you out of the way.
Yeah.
And that is the way it is. You can't save everybody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can't sit back and just think that we can't arrest our way out of the problem.
Right.
At the end of the day, because at the end of the day, if they're not getting a life sentence, they're coming back home. And then what?
Yeah.
Then now they're a convicted felon in our society.
Yeah.
And their options are limited. It's difficult to tell somebody, imagine someone that sold drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to wait 2 weeks for a check when that's why it's called the trap.
Yeah.
Because you're trapped mentally in thinking that, why would I wait 2 weeks for $1,000 when I can make $1,000 in a day?
Right.
But once you wait on that government check or your check to come, you can sleep well at night. You don't have to violence. You're not looking over your shoulder thinking someone's trying to come and get you.
Yeah, exactly right.
And Ty, I think that we have to live I feel like in reality.
Right.
And that is we're not going to be able to change the politics of the city anytime soon, maybe never.
Right.
And we know that how these kids got into this situation in their homes is so incredibly complex. We're not going to solve that in probably our lifetimes.
Right.
So what we have to do is deal with the cards that have been dealt to these kids. I know it's a very difficult situation for a lot of these kids that grow up in these homes. A lot of them are born feeling like they have no options. And a lot of these kids, I know, because I've talked to them, feel they don't have a life. They're going to die by the time they're 30 years old. And so what is the point in doing this, this, and this? And thank God for people like you, because I feel like the only option we have are mentorship programs.
The reason that I'm able to relate to the kids, because I grew up on the Hodemont tracks. I grew up near Delmar and Kings Highway. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the Fountain Park neighborhood is one of the worst areas in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up around gangs. I grew up around violence. But my mom, my family made a choice and stayed on me to not allow me to go off that path.
Yeah.
Did I go off the path? I got expelled from high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But I made a choice at that point to correct it myself. I saw better. I wanted to do better.
Yeah.
And by doing that, as I started someone at my church sat me down and said, what do you see yourself at age 60? Mm-hmm. And at the time, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And she said, have you ever wrote your goals down? And at that point, as I wrote my goals down, now I'm addicted to success.
Yeah.
Because every time I accomplish
I like that. Flag that.
It is.
And that's because someone mentored you.
That's because
someone took their time out to talk to you.
That I don't even know who that person was.
Yeah.
And that let me go off to college. When I got to college, I went to Lakeland College in Mattoon, Illinois.
Yeah.
Farm country. Right? My professor, I was the only minority in the criminal justice major.
Mm-hmm.
My professor was like, Mr. Dennis, he didn't know I got this awesome Rockwood education.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Dennis, what are you trying to do with your degree? At the time, at 18, I don't know. I just want to play basketball.
Yeah.
He's like, have you ever thought about going into the FBI?
Mm-hmm.
The feds? Never.
Yeah.
At the time,
yeah.
Who would think that years later I would make my name working in law enforcement?
Right.
That's why I said on NBC Nightly News, we have to recruit from some of these environments because we can't continue to do the same things expecting a different result.
Right.
Everything that made me different as a police officer made me great.
Yeah.
Why? Because I came from that. I knew a lot about gangs long before I put on a badge and a gun.
Right.
Ty, I'm listening to you talk, man. By the way, we're speaking with Ty Dennis, the Clippers and Cops. We've had him on the radio show in the past. We were radio, now we're podcast. Ty, I'm sorry. I just don't get this. I'm a blue family. My dad was a cop. I will never understand city management. Number one, you have a debt to the state. And the current or the Missouri Attorney General at the time, Eric Schmidt, told the mayor, Tashara Jones, if you give this money that you owe the state to the police force, I'll forget about the debt and it's over. And she said no. And then we see now that we just had a RAM settlement, the St. Louis City part of it's $250 million. If you would share, I mean, why can't some of that money go to help or increase? You have to think that police are a deterrent, not just locking people up, but programs to go along with it. People are asking, you're here. I got to have your voice in this, being a cop and somebody who grew up in the city.
The number one deterrence in crime is officer presence. Period. Point blank.
Thank you.
If you park a police car outside of a bank, chances are I'm not going to rob that bank. I'm going to rob the bank around the corner. All right. So the number one deterrence is having officer on the streets. But on the flip side, you have to increase their salary.
Yes.
If they're working at year 13, 14 for myself in Atlanta, I was making 48 grand on paper.
Dear God.
What that means is without working a secondary job, I shouldn't have to go work at Applebee's. I'm dead tired.
Hell no,
I'm
you
away from
shouldn't.
my family. I should be able to work 8 hours, go home, and I should get a livable wage where that's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's not the reality. Some of these officers, of course, some of us, you may live outside your means like everybody else, but some of the assignments that these officers have, they're seizing hundreds of thousands of dollars that they don't benefit from.
Right.
And so if you want to keep officers in-house, the people with the experience, for myself, 16 years, in my unit, we lost almost 100 plus years of knowledge within a month, right? If you want to keep that, you got to pay for it. Why? Because like I said earlier, I have a specialization as a gang detective. I literally get brought in on gang cases to explain the gang evidence, okay?
Right.
So a lawyer would pay me for that. Why can't the city pay me for my skills?
Right.
But I have to move up in rank to boost my pay.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm going to be a 20-year detective making $48,000.
Yeah.
That's not fair. That's not right.
And that's why they're leaving here in the city of St. Louis.
It's not just St. Louis.
Wages have to be
It's
doubled.
everywhere.
They have to be doubled.
They have. Think about it. Most people are not going to risk doing some of the stuff that happens as a police officer that may go viral. Most people are not going to risk $100,000 to go do that. And that's the reality of it. If I'm making a certain amount of wage, I might think like, well, I would, but nah, I don't want to mess up this bag.
Yeah.
And that's what they have to think about. Make it more lucrative, often.
I just get pissed off in cities around the country, not just St. Louis, that aren't putting police and that presence.
Hold on,
my gosh,
hold on.
yes.
But here's the deal. Let me ask you this: your opinion. What do you think? How do you square this whole defund the police or reimagine police movement with what Vic said and multi-millions of dollars coming into cities? And you have a Lyda Cruz and you have a Tashara and all these people saying, look, it is not in our best interest to fund cops. It is not in our best interest.
They're just saying that there already is enough money. Tashara
okay,
told
they're
me
already,
herself.
but he's saying there's not.
Tashara told me, she's like, we have enough money being spent towards.
It's not true. It's not true because we're the number one most dangerous city in the world.
When it comes to the defund the police movement, the title in itself in some instances was hijacked. Okay. Some people want police reform or change, which we want it should be fair across the board.
Yeah.
I think it's been hijacked to say get rid of the police.
Yeah.
That is, most people don't agree with that because we can't live. It'll be the purge.
Right.
Every man for themselves. You have the best gun. You have a good gun.
We're already there.
Well, almost. And that's because some of the officers don't feel supported from higher up. At the end of the day, the police do have a budget. But when you break it all the way down, it's just like in most companies.
Yeah.
The ones that are actually boots on the ground aren't seeing it, aren't benefiting from it.
Yeah.
So therefore, it makes you say, well, why don't I go do something else? One of my buddies called me from Atlanta. He said he worked in our chief's office. He's a sergeant.
Right.
He said, I'm thinking about just hanging it up and going to work at Home Depot.
And that's what's happening in, I know St. Louis,
happening
everywhere. We're down, 130 officers in 2022 for the city of St. Louis have either quit or retired.
And
this year.
think about it. So we're getting a new stadium. Downtown is most people.
You're talking about the MLS soccer stadium.
Correct. Most people, you have to make people feel comfortable in coming into the city. They have to feel safe. If you don't feel safe, guess what? You're going to take your services, your time somewhere else.
Yeah.
If my car gets broken into everywhere I go in the city, I'm not coming because at the end of the day, it's costing me money.
Yeah.
Why would I want to come spend money when it's going to cost me more money to get my
Why do you think Tashara, just to use St. Louis, is so anti-cops? And she is.
No.
I mean, why do you think that? And if you look at a Kim Gardner, can you comment on that? Like, look, she's got to start prosecuting people. And can you comment on? In my opinion, I think that the camera that the cops put on their person, I think that fixed a lot of problems.
Body cameras is the best thing to happen to officers. The thing about being a cop, guess what? People think we don't want them. The body camera helps us.
Yeah.
Because it tells the full story. When you see a viral video, if I walked up to Vic right now and I spit in your face, right, as a grown man, chances are you're going to punch me. Right. If she starts recording once he punches me, who's at fault?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that a body camera helps tell. Now, do some officers do some stuff wrong? Of course.
Yeah.
That's any profession.
Yeah.
And everybody should be held accountable.
Right.
But right is right and wrong is wrong. Body camera is our friend.
Yeah.
When you speak about the people that you spoke about, I don't know them. I read about some of the things that they got going on. Me personally, I'm glad I wasn't a cop in St. Louis. But that's just saying.
Flag that one. Yeah.
I'm just saying. But that's not just St. Louis. That's Atlanta ain't perfect either.
Yeah.
Atlanta got its own issues as well. I think that you have to bring people from different walks of life to have seats at the table. Yeah. To make some of these decisions. How can you make decisions for law enforcement without having law enforcement who it affects at the table? And I don't know if they are. It's just like me writing a Teen 17 magazine.
Now, when also we were talking earlier on the show about racism is a farce. Culturalism is something that's real, right? St. Charles, Missouri has parts of St. Charles are underprivileged people. I'm sorry, there is a lot of poverty in St. Charles. It's just that this culture here in St. Charles, they don't tolerate the crime. They demand cops show up, they do the work, they investigate, and if there is something, they do put the right measures in place to stop that crime. Do you think that that's a fair thing, is for St. Louis to take a look at a St. Charles and say, these guys are succeeding because of A, B, C, and D? Or is it just a totally different world over there in the urban areas?
I think that you, as a government, you should always be looking to improve. And at the end of the day, I think that in the city of St. Louis, if you look back in history, St. Louis was created on segregation.
Right.
And some of those things still exist. North St. Louis exists the way that it exists long before where it is now because of the past.
Right.
Do we continue to operate that way? No. Maybe you should look at your surrounding counties and say, what are you doing? Why would that hurt?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if somebody else is something working better, why would you not take a look at it and say, maybe that can work for us?
Yeah. Because the urban areas should be the economic development platform of the entire region. Correct. And we should look at St. Louis as our emerald and not as a rock, it's a cubic zirconium.
Think about this though, right? That's true. But look at North St. Louis, where I grew up, there wasn't many businesses or
good point.
Food restaurants.
Fantastic point.
Where's Whole Foods at?
Grocery stores.
Right. Where's the Starbucks at?
Yeah.
Those things generate economics.
Right.
And when you look at Delmar Boulevard, Delmar cuts through. If they made Delmar the Strip a business entity and made things would blossom from that.
Yes.
You can't not put anything in a community to grow and expect it to grow. It's like not watering a flower.
Yeah.
It's not giving any sun to it.
Right.
So guess what it does? It rottens.
Yeah.
And that's why when you look at North St. Louis, vacant buildings.
Yeah.
Some of those need to go.
Yeah.
Start fresh. Start building.
So Republicans are known as the party of development. They're known as the capitalist party. They just are. Democrats are known as the social issues party. They just are. Do you think that there's a time when St. Louis becomes a Republican city, or is that just totally impossible?
Or would it help?
Me personally, I don't think two parties represent everybody. We're too big of a country for. It's either you or this or that. Right. And what it falls into is If you're white, you're Republican. If you're black, you go with the Democrat. I don't care what party you are, do your job.
Yeah.
And whoever steps
Well, that's
up,
a great point.
That's my point.
I
I
don't
don't care what party you could be, whatever you are, do your job.
I kind of feel sorry for all these. Do you think that the Democratic Party was hijacked by too many of these things that it just does not even answer the question of helping people anymore?
I think as a country, we don't recognize where these parties came from and how they shaped up over the years.
Right.
Our country was, when people talk about make America great, when was we ever great? We've always had carnage and different things going on that we hate to talk about. And it shows with some of the things that we have going on today. If we're going to really be true, to me, a party that represents everybody is getting someone from each walk of life. And how does this affect you? How does this affect you? How does this affect you? When most things in our country is based on money. If you have money, certain things get swept to the side. If you don't, you get pushed into this certain box.
That's true.
And that forces that a lot of this stuff comes from economics.
Right.
Hey, Ty, before we go, I know we only have a couple minutes. We have a question from one of the listeners, and they are asking, do you feel, and I already know your answer to this, do you feel that every school should have a resource officer?
Ty is also with the Rockwood School District.
Right?
He can't.
I already know your answer.
My everyday job.
Yeah,
so
he's a
of course
district
I
safety
can't
officer
touch on
with
that
Rockwood.
in this setting. So
Exactly.
I'm going to leave that one off.
It's called cancel this, Ty.
But at the same time, like I said, at the end of the day, does officer presence deter crime? Yes. But at the same time, it takes all of us to be safe. At the end of the day, we all have to do our part. You can't expect just because I have an officer in my neighborhood that's just going to stop all the crime.
Hey, Ty, I got another question from the comment line from earlier. When you were talking about BLM, do you feel in any way that BLM has led youth in the wrong way about fighting, going out in the streets, doing anything, because BLM had some problems with management, as we saw when it came to the finances being misused, and maybe a message of violence and not peace?
I think that the slogan got hijacked in itself, just like anything.
But hijacked by who?
I think as it started as a cry for help, right? My Black Life Matter. It didn't say which Black life, it's just saying, hey, my life matter. It didn't say nobody else's life didn't matter. It's just saying Black Lives Matter. Over time, it became a political outcry. Do I think it had anything to do with what's going on? Maybe. But at the end of the day, a movement can't dictate your actions. You see what I'm saying? Just because I'm saying my Black Lives Matter don't mean I should go bust this window out. Yeah, I can still say that and get my message across in other ways. At the end of the day, when you look back on everything that happened in Ferguson, some good came from Ferguson. Some bad came from Ferguson. Did it plant a wedge in our city? Yeah, it did as well.
For sure. For sure.
Well, that's what we got to have these conversations, man. And that's why you and I have done this for a while. People got to talk. People want a platform where they can talk to somebody like you and get answers from somebody who hasn't lived a life like they do, looks like they do, and hasn't experienced the same thing.
I tell people all the time, I'm open for conversation with anybody on anything. The only way I've become who I am is by putting myself with different walks of life and being able to hold conversations without any recourse. Because me and my buddy is actually working on a podcast called Culturally Complicated. And the reason for it is some stuff in a different way you just don't know. Does it make you racist? No. Does it make you ignorant? Somewhat, because of where you come from.
You don't know.
You know, you don't know.
I've sat in on a call with you in the past, and I was like, damn, this would be good conversation.
And that's what my buddy is a WSB news reporter in Atlanta, and we talk every day. He's become one of my best friends. We talk every day about all type of topics.
I love that.
And one of the topics, one day he was asking me, like, why does black people don't want white people to touch their hair? Because I'm not a puppet. Like, I'm not this ain't a zoo. Like, this ain't. Oh,
I didn't know that.
Well, because
I'm not touching
at the end of the day, if you see a black female whatever way their hair is, that's their style of hair.
Yeah.
They're not an animal at a zoo to say, oh, can I pat it? How does it like, no,
Ty,
that's
I'm
not
the
cool.
same effing way. Do not touch my freaking
There you
hair.
go. See,
It took a lot of time to
I
get
know
it this
it
way.
did. But those are the topics that I love being able to talk to him because I didn't know much about Jewish people. He's Jewish. He's able to explain why the Kyrie situation bothered him so bad.
Yeah.
To me, I took it from a different path. He took it from another. But if you really want to grow, you have to get out the box of just the same people. We all agree on everything.
Yeah.
Hey, we do the same. No, you really grow when you get new, different people from different walks of life. My partner as a police officer, she was a lesbian. She taught me so much about that culture.
Yeah.
Me and her really bonded when I went to her birthday at a lesbian bar. She was like, I never thought you would come.
Well, we got to have the conversation.
You gotta
man.
have
all
those
opinions have to be
conversations.
welcome.
That's
That's
it.
what we do with
That's
cancel
how
this.
we grow. And that's the only way our world.
You can't be
better.
canceled for going out and speaking and talking about it and learning.
Learn. I think some of the punishment when people are canceled is put them in those environments to learn.
Yeah.
Learn why your words affected those people like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because cancel them, what does that do? You got rid of them, so what? They still feel that way. They still can spew hate. If we truly are about love and coming together, that's why I love going to the
That's
Cardinals
Ty
game.
Dennis.
That's why
Well, I
love
think
it.
that from now on, and I think that everyone in this room is talking because we want to help the same communities.
That's it.
We love the communities. We do not like seeing any of them get hurt. And I think we need to have that conversation.
That's Ty
How do we
Dennis.
fix
When
it?
you go to a Cardinal game, what do you see?
Cardinals. Cardinal
All of us,
fans.
when you think of St. Louis, Missouri, everybody loves the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Because it represents us. We've lost football teams. As a black person, I like hockey, but everybody don't like hockey.
Yeah.
But the Cardinals is what
brings us together.
Correct. And when we're at the game, you could be sitting next to whoever, and it don't even matter. Hey, I'm getting up. You want to get you a beer? Hey, you want a hot dog?
That's right.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
That's how we have to think about building our city.
Amen.
That should be the focal point that we build from.
Ty, let us know. We'll promote your show. We'll do what we can. We'll talk. We're friends. Clippers and Cops. Ty Dennis, man.
ClippersandCops.org. We're on all social media platforms. The goal is I really want to do a tour where we literally go into every metropolitan city and have these conversations with young people to help. When we get off, I'll show you clips of them speaking for themselves. It brings me almost to tears because this is something I thought of eating a bag of Doritos on my couch.
That's Ty Dennis.
I'm serious. And it's been a pro because kids need guidance.
Yes,
Kids
they do.
we think everybody goes home to the same life.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
We don't. And if nobody steps up to tell them better, if we want them to see better, we got to tell them and show them better.
It's all
That's
about
right.
the education.
Thanks, Ty. We appreciate it. For producer Mike Wilkerson, Eric Johnson, and Tabitha Hassel, I'm Vic Faust. This is Cancel This. It's cancelthisshow.com. Once again, cancelthisshow.com. Check it out. You'll see all of our podcasts. You'll see what we have going on there. Plus, we're Monday through Friday live, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
So you didn't name the show Cancel This.